Hello everyone, welcome to our audiobook channel. If you enjoy this story or want to hear more exciting content, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. Your feedback helps us improve and bring even more captivating stories. Enjoy listening. Chapter 1. Chapter 1, The Birth of Baby Fox I. I heard that some time back, the eldest miss of our by manor was having relations with someone and was spotted by second miss. She had even tried to hit back and had actually said that second miss was framing her. Second miss started crying out of anger on the spot. Speaking about this eldest miss, I really can't help but admire her good luck. Despite being a piece of trash, she was actually able to become the fiancée of the second prince, and the prince, His Highness, has also never disdained her. However, she didn't even know what was good for her and actually had improper relations with another person. If she had simply lost her virginity, it could still be forgotten, but she had even gotten pregnant and everyone knows about it. This has really shamed the imperial clan thoroughly. I even heard that the Bai family had betrothed second miss to second prince in order to compensate him. However, second miss, who was being falsely accused by eldest miss, wasn't even calculative toward her previous grievances and had planned to advise second prince to take eldest miss in as a concubine. Tell me, how could a woman who's no longer a virgin be fit to be a concubine of the imperial family? And to think that second miss actually cares so much about their relationship as sisters. 1. The rustling from outside reached the room as Bai Yan continued to calmly sit by the head of the bed. Her fingers lightly caressed her flat abdomen as her gaze that was clear like clean waters remained calm without a ripple. 3 months ago, she had just arrived at this mainland, and before she was even able to familiarize herself with the environment here, her good younger sister had already prepared an ugly man for her. Who would have known that after she desperately fought and escaped, she was ultimately unable to resist the drug within her body and had ended up simply picking up a man in the countryside to rid the effects of the drug. 1. Although she was alone when Bairuo found her, the traces on her body clearly showed that everything that was from before wasn't a dream. That man's bloodthirsty eyes appeared in Bai Yan's mind and Bai Yan went into a daze. She wasn't sure if it was because she had been drugged back then, but now, she couldn't recall the man's face no matter what. It was as if the man was naturally covered in a layer of fog and she was unable to see a face within the vagueness. Elder sister. A familiar voice pulled Bai Yan back from her thoughts. She raised her head and saw a handsome young man entering through the door from outside. From memory, she knew that this young man was Bai Xiao, the biological brother of this body, born of the same mother. He was also the only concern she had in this world. Back then, following the death of their biological mother, Lan Yu, Bai Zhenxiang elevated his concubine, Yu Rong, to his proper wife and even brought along the 2 daughters born of the concubine, Bairuo and Baiji, to climb over their heads. If it weren't for the deterring might of the Lan family, they would have been left completely without status in the Bai family. However, with the passing of time, some people had already forgotten that the reason why the Bai family had its position today was definitely related to the Lan family. Back then, the head of the Lan family had disagreed to Lan Yu's marriage to Bai Zhenxiang because he already had a few concubines. However, Lan Yu had used the threat of severing the relationship between father and daughter to force the head of the Lan family to have no choice but to agree. In order to prevent Lan Yu from suffering, the Lan family had prepared 10 miles of dowry, and that had caused a sensation. After that, they had gone broke in order to buy countless pills to give Lan Yu. 2. Who would have known that Lan Yu was unable to withstand Bai Zhenxiang's sweet nothings and had actually given all those pills to him? Bai Zhenxiang had directly broken through to the heaven tier by relying on the aid of those pills and entered into the top-notch prestigious families. 1. It could be said that the Bai family's position today had been obtained in exchange for Lan Yu's sacrifice. Even when she herself found out about these matters, she was already so angry. It was no wonder that the old master of the Lan family was so angry for all these years and had never bothered to hear about or ask about her. His heart was truly broken by this daughter of his elder sister. Bai Xiao's little expression was a little complicated. Don't be too sad. If second prince wants to break off his engagement with you, it is his loss. I've previously seen second prince and Bairuo exchanging flirtatious looks. Things are definitely unusual between the two of them. Chapter 2. Chapter 2, The Birth of Baby Fox 2. Seeing Bai Yan remaining silent, he thought that she was feeling sad over the recent happenings. Hearing Bai Xiao's careful tone, Bai Yan chuckled. The world thinks that I've betrayed second prince. Why do you think that it's second prince's loss? I believe in you, elder sister, that you wouldn't betray him. You were definitely framed by someone. The young man's gaze was very firm and his tone was fierce. If I discover the person behind this, I definitely won't let her off. Bai Yan's heart trembled and there was an indescribable feeling in her heart. In her past life, she was a descendant of the ancient martial arts world of Huaxia, and from a young age, she had been indoctrinated with the idea of becoming stronger. To become strong, she had betrayed everyone and left her relatives. But in the end, while refining a 9th-tier pill, she had met with heavenly lightning and ended up dying. It had been so difficult for her to live again in another life. She would definitely not act the way she had done in the past, where she had only care about cultivation and had ended up ignoring the people by her side. That's right. The young man dug out a money bag from his embrace and placed it into Bai Yan's hands. Now that you're pregnant, you'll need sufficient nutrition. This silver is for you. Bai Yan clenched the money bag as she felt a tingling in her heart. Where did the silver come from? I pawned the jade pendant mother left me when she was still alive. Bai Yan's heart felt like it was being clenched tight. In the eyes of outsiders, Bai Xiao and her seemed very well off, but in reality, the Bai family frequently deducted their monthly allowance, and even the dowry which Lan Yu had brought into the family were being kept by Yu Rong. However, the sibling duo were also very stubborn. They knew that it was their mother who had wronged their maternal grandfather. No matter how bitter life was or how tired they felt, they never did go to the Lan family to seek for help. The Lan family was also overconfident and thought that the Bai family would not ill-treat the sibling duo. Furthermore, Lan Yu's dowry was sufficient for the siblings' expenditure for an entire lifetime. But in reality, Yu Rong's two daughters were dressed in gold and covered in silver. They ate mouth-watering delicacies while the sibling duo frequently lacked their fill. What was hilarious was that Bai Zhenxiang was not good at managing his business, while Yu Rong was also very extravagant with her spending. What the Bai family had been using all these years was all Lan Yu's dowry. As for Bai Xiao's jade pendant, it was the only item Lan Yu had given to him, and it was also the only thing he pined for all these years. If it wasn't for the fact that he had hidden it too well, it might have long been taken away by Yu Rong. 1. Just as Bai Yan's thoughts were swirling around, a servant girl entered without asking and interrupted the moment of the siblings' interaction. Eldest miss, the madam is asking you to make a trip over. Bai Xiao immediately grabbed Bai Yan's hand, his eyes full of worry. Don't worry, I'll be fine. Bai Yan patted Bai Xiao's hand comfortingly as she gave him a reassuring look before walking over to the door. Instantly, the majestic mighty aura of the young maiden radiated. She was a beauty dressed in red, and her looks were sufficient to topple a city. Her gaze was icy cold, and with every step that she took, the servant girl found it a little harder to breathe. Her throat felt like it was being held and she was unable to breathe. Don't forget that you're merely a maidservant. Even if I'm not pampered, I am still a master in the Bai manner. You entered without asking and have therefore disrespected me. I have the rights to have you beaten to death, then. The maidservant's face paled. She had signed a contract to sell herself, and thus, even if her master wanted to kill her, she had no choice but to die. Due to Bai Yan's weakness in the past, she had forgotten about this. Lead the way. The young maiden's tone was cold and detached, leaving no room for questions. Yes, eldest miss. The maidservant also no longer dared to look down on the young maiden before her. Even if her reputation was in tatters, she was more than capable of questioning a servant. Bai Xiao looked at the retreating figure of the young maiden in a daze. He kept feeling that his eldest sister seemed to have changed in the past few months. She had become strong and reliable, which made him feel at ease. 1. Chapter 3. Chapter 3, The Birth of Baby Fox 3. When Bai Yan entered into the main room, she noticed that besides Yu Rong, there was also an old madam with white hair. This old madam naturally was not the old madam of the Bai family, but she was old Madam Yu Rong's biological mother, who was also Bai Zhengxiang's aunt. 10 years ago, old Madam Yu had the intention of letting her own nephew marry Yu Rong. However, Bai Zhenxiang disdained the Yu family for being unable to bring him any benefits and therefore only allowed Yu Rong to be a concubine. The one he had married instead was Lan Yu, the daughter of the Lan family. 2. After Lan Yu died, he elevated Yu Rong's position to being the main wife. Unable to withstand Yu Rong's crying and complaints, he brought old Madam Yu to stay in the Bai family and even treated her respectfully as he would treat his own biological mother. With a daughter like Yu Rong, old Madam Yu was also naturally not a frugal person. Therefore, after so many years, the dowry Lan Yu had brought in was already spent by this group of people till there was barely anything left. Bai Yan, give us an explanation honestly. Who's that man that you cheated with? Old Madam Yu proudly raised her head and asked sharply as one would when interrogating a criminal. What has it to do with you? The corner of Bai Yan's lips lifted slightly and she coldly looked down at old Madam Yu, who was sitting before her, as she spoke calmly. Presumptuous. Old Madam Yu slammed the tabletop angrily. I'm your maternal grandmother. It's only natural for me to know. Who did you cheat with? Maternal grandmother? My maternal grandmother is from the Lan family. You're merely the maternal grandmother of Bai Ruo and Bai Ji's sister Duo. Quit trying to show off. Old Madam Yu was so angered that even her old face changed. What rights did a motherless, wild child have to act arrogant in front of her? Mother, ease your anger. Yu Rong immediately lightly patted the old madam's chest and looked at Bai Yan. Bai Yan, I actually got you to come over today to deliver good news. There's someone who doesn't disdain you for losing your virginity, and if you're willing to abort the child, he'll take you in as a concubine. Is a daughter of the Bai family is only suited to be a concubine according to you? Bai Yan drew closer the two of them, her tone filled with a cold, gloomy vibe. Old Madam Yu snorted. You're just a despicable child born to the first wife and have lost your innocence, but you actually still dare to be picky? Let me tell you, the old master of the Jian family is willing to give a tier 3 Zhenling pill as a gift to take you in as a concubine. Now that a man is willing to take you in, you should be grateful to the point of shedding tears. What rights do you have to be picky? Bai Yan narrowed her eyes slightly as a chilling gleam appeared. Based on hearsay, the head of the Jian family is already more than half a century old and is brutal in nature. The concubines in his manor also frequently die without proper cause. Are you planning to send me to my death? The Jian family was also one of the 4 prestigious families, but was well known for their brutality. Apparently, the women who entered the Jian family would be brought out horizontally. You loathsome brat! Our Bai family has raised you for so many years, so shouldn't you repay us a little? To be honest, my son has already reached the earth tier lower grade and needs a tier 3 Zhenling pill to break through. Therefore, this time, you must become the concubine of the Jian family head. Bai Yan had long known that these people were shameless, but she never thought that they were shameless to such an extent. She sneered. Firstly, your family name is you aren't a member of the Bai family. If this was overheard by someone who not in the know, they would think that you're the old madam of the Bai family. Secondly, your son needs the Zhenling pill. How is that related to me? Why should I sacrifice for the sake of your Yu family? Thirdly, you say that the Bai family has raised me for so many years, but this Bai family only managed to become a top-notch prestigious family because of my mother. Even for the clothes that you are wearing and accessories you are putting on, tell me, which one of them isn't actually my mother's dowry? Old Madame Yu was so angry that she was trembling and her old face was livid. Chapter 4. Chapter 4, The Birth of Baby Fox 4. Indeed AB** starred without a mother's teachings, lacking in education. My son is your uncle, so what if you sacrifice for him? A person like you who's no longer innocent and pure should just go and secretly be happy over the fact that there is someone who is willing to have you. She was not done scolding and did not seem to notice the dropping temperature around Bai Yan as she sneered. However, you and your frivolous fox-like mother are the same. Both are frivolous. First, you forcefully possessed His Highness, the Prince, and now you do such outrageous things. You can even be this ruthless toward relatives. Wait till your father returns, I'll immediately have him beat you to death. The corner of Bai Yan's lips lifted as she quietly listened to old Madame's reprimand. A murderous aura was already surging in her cold eyes. Mother, stop speaking first. Yurong pretended to advise her before speaking to Bai Yan. Yan'er, as relatives, it is natural to help one another. Now that your uncle is in need, how can you not help? Furthermore, your father doesn't like people that are heartless too. Bai Yan had once cared about Bai Zhenxiang, this father of hers. Every time Yurong used Bai Zhenxiang to suppress her, she would agree to anything and everything. Just like even when she suffered in the Bai family, she never said a word to the outside. However, the current her was no longer the previous Bai Yan. As relatives, it's natural to help one another. This isn't wrong. The Yu family are after all your relatives, Yurong, and aren't related to me. You can ask Bai Ruo or Bai Ji to marry over. I'm sure they wouldn't wish to be heartless people. Yurong's expression changed. She had used such a nice tone and nice words to speak to her. How dare she reject? Furthermore, using Bai Zhenxiang now to suppress her was actually ineffective. Presumptuous. Old Madame Yu's gaze turned ferocious. My Jir is only 12 years old. You actually want a 12-year-old little girl to marry an old man of 60 as a concubine? How could you do such a vicious thing? You're really as vicious as your mother. In old Madame's eyes, Lan Yu was the most vicious person. If it were not for this woman, her own daughter would also not have needed to be a concubine for so many years. Bai Yan suddenly felt like laughing. Bai Ji was only 12, and she was merely 17 years old. To let Bai Ji be a concubine was being vicious, while she being a concubine herself was only something expected and natural. As for Ruo old Madame Yu snorted. What do you have to compare with Ruo? In a few days, she'll be marrying second prince and become his consort. You, a woman who got pregnant before marriage, even dare bring up letting Ruo marry an old man as a concubine? What qualifications do you, a person who wants your own younger sister to be married off as a concubine due to your own selfishness, have to continue being the daughter of Bai Manor? Old Madame Yu's ability of recriminating was very strong. Bai Yan had previously experienced this through a lesson. Otherwise Bai Zhenxiang would also not have rather believed his own mother-in-law over his own biological daughter. I reiterate. Bai Yan, will definitely not become someone's concubine. After Bai Yan finished speaking, it was as if a surge of suppression had naturally appeared and the aura of the entire room was a little suppressed. Her gaze was like a sharp sword, coldly looking at Yurong and old Madame Yu. Yurong felt her breath caught. When did this brat's might become so strong? No. This was definitely her own illusion. Bai Yan was merely trash. Taking in a breath, Yurong held back old Madame Yu, who had originally wanted to scold Bai Yan, then slowly stood up and walked over in her direction. Tonight, the people from the Qian family will come and take you, Bai Yan. No matter how unwilling you are, You have to become the concubine of the Qian family's old man. She raised her head, acting high and mighty. The gentleness she had purposely put on was no longer there. Chapter 5. Chapter 5, The Birth of Baby Fox V. No one is able to threaten or force me into doing things that I'm unwilling to. Bai Yan was expressionless as her gaze had a chilling gleam. Yurong laughed and said in contempt, I'll take it that you think life isn't fair and therefore resist your destiny. After all, your previous fiancé will be marrying my daughter soon. Your statuses are as different as the sky and the earth. Actually, if not for the fact that you still have a maternal grandparent's home, do you think that the emperor would bestow you a marriage to the second prince? Or do you think you're comparable to my Ruoer? Honestly speaking, my Ruoer is knowledgeable and gifted. Only she is worthy to be the princess consort. Not only so, but in the future, Ruoer will become the mother of the nation while you're only worthy of looking up to her from within the dust. Her Ruoer was so outstanding. How was she someone Bai Yan could compare with? That was really such a joke. I feel that you, on the other hand, only have one use, which is to be used in exchange for a tier 3 pill. In order to remember your sacrifice, I'll let you take a look when the tier 3 pill is in my hands. Otherwise, trash like you would never even see a tier 3 pill in your entire lifetime. Bai Yan laughed. In her past life, she could even refine a tier 8 pill, not to mention a tier 3 pill. If you've all called me over today merely to talk about these, then let me advise you to save your energy. Bai Yan's indifferent glance swept past the two people in the room. However, I, Bai Yan, will clearly remember today's matter. In the future, I'll make all of you pay back for each and every grievance. In the future. Old Madame Yu's face was full of disdain. When she enters the Qian family, would she still have a future? After Bai Yan left those words behind, she casually turned around and left. Without looking back, she who was dressed in red slowly disappeared under the quiet, evening sunlight. After leaving Yurong's room, Bai Yan directly entered her own room and calmly sat cross-legged at the head of her bed. If there had been someone around then, that person would have noticed a faint Zhen qi flowing into her body. This thread of Zhen qi was a faint yellow. It was a trait that only the yellow tier would possess. In the period of 3 months and only reaching the yellow tier advanced stage, this speed of promotion in stages is too slow. If I could refine pills now, I could improve this body's constitution and there will be a several-fold increase in my speed. Of course, the previous Bai Yan was merely at the human tier advanced stage and was not even comparable to a maidservant. At the very least, maidservants would have the cultivation abilities of the yellow tier beginner stage. The reason why she could reach yellow tier advanced stage was also the fruit of her cultivation for months. The sky very quickly turned dark. The dark night was very quiet. Rustling could be heard from outside the door and Bai Yan knew that the people from the Qian family had arrived. As expected, 2 maidservants entered from outside with a cold expression. Follow us. Bai Yan did not say a word as she slowly stood up and walked toward the outside of the room. Outside the side door, a sedan chair was long awaiting. As everyone knew of Bai Yan's cultivation abilities, the people that the Qian family had sent were not any experts but rather just a few yellow tier beginner stage maidservants and manservants. After those people made Bai Yan enter the sedan chair, they drew the sedan chair curtains and quickly rushed toward the Qian family. The roads they took were very remote, perhaps extremely fearful that someone would notice them. Just at this moment, smoke appeared with a bang. The sedan chair suddenly fell and dropped to the ground heavily. What is going on? The sedan chair carriers were all stunned and immediately entered the sedan chair to investigate what was going on. However, they realized that the maidservant who was originally sitting in the sedan chair to keep watch was already unconscious. On the seat, the young maiden was lazily holding up her chin and her hair was loosely hanging down, covering the mat of the seat, appearing breathtakingly beautiful. Chapter 6. Chapter 6, The Birth of Baby Fox 6. I should thank you all for bringing me away from the Bai family. 2. The corner of the young maiden's lips lifted, revealing a smile that was as beautiful as flowers blooming. Later, please help me to tell you wrong that I will settle the score between us in the future. 1. The 4 sedan chair carriers were stunned. By the time they had regained their senses, a gust of wind had flashed past and the person in the sedan chair was long gone, leaving behind only the cool night wind that stimulated their nerves. Bai Yan did not know that her departure had stirred up an uproar in Luhuo Kingdom. The Qian family did not receive the person and had naturally gone to seek out Yurong to settle the score. In order to ensure the Qian family kept the secret, not only was Yurong unable to receive the gift but she even had to compensate a large sum of silver. This made her, who originally hated Bai Yan, hate Bai Yan even more and gnash her teeth in hatred. Compared to Yurong, old Madame Yu felt even more heartache. The moment she thought about the Tier 3 pill which was just about to land into her hands flying away, she felt so much heartache that she started bawling on the streets. Yurong immediately made up an excuse for her own mother, saying that her old mother had always treated Bai Yan as her own granddaughter, but who knew that Bai Yan would leave without a word and elope with a man, making her old mother so worried and reluctant that she ended up bawling. Therefore, news that old Madame Yu was someone who was sentimental and righteous while Bai Yan was a white-eyed wolf once spread throughout all the streets and alleys. In an instant, the people of the Bai family became famous and even the old Madame Yu was admired by the world, while Bai Yan was the one who was reviled. The person who was most hurt by Bai Yan's departure was Bai Xiao. He locked himself in his room for a few months and after he came back out, the originally immature young man had already metamorphosed into maturity. His eyes no longer had the clearness it once contained, but was instead replaced with a cold detachment. 2. Many months later, in a barren valley, Bai Yan tightly held her aching stomach as cold sweat dripped from her forehead. She gritted her teeth as she stood up and leaned against a rock. I estimated that there should be 2 days left before labor. Why am I about to give birth now? 1. At this place, there wasn't any tools to aid birth and there wasn't even a basin of hot water. Good thing I'd prepared some pills beforehand. She slowly let out a breath and swallowed a pill after she took it out. When the pill entered her mouth, she felt that her strength, which had waned, slowly recovering. Squeak squeak. Not knowing when, a group of fire foxes had surrounded her. Bai Yan felt nervous in her heart and originally thought that these fire foxes would hurt her. Who would have known that they were actually encircling her to keep her protected within, like loyal guards on duty? Demon beasts. Bai Yan looked at this group of fire foxes, deep in thought. In this mainland, there were ordinary wild beasts and similarly, there were also demon beasts. These demon beasts could be tamed by humans and contracted, used in battle, and there were also forces that specialized in taming demon beasts, such as the demon beast sect. However, what she could not comprehend was why these fire foxes wished to protect her. No, it should be said, wished to protect her child. Not knowing if it was the effect of the pill or if the child in her stomach really wanted to come out, this time, with a hard push, a soft thing slid out from her body. However, just as the child was born, the fire foxes that were originally encircling her instantly took a few steps backward and knelt to the ground in a uniform manner. Their paws were brought forward and they cupped their paws, like a group of officials kneeling in worship of their king. 1. However, in places that Bai Yan could not see, all the demon beasts on the mainland were like these fire foxes, kneeling down in worship in the direction she was at. A sign from heaven, all beasts greets their king. 3. A king was born, and the world to be united as one. 3. Bai Yan was not bothered about the changes that were happening in the outside world. She was already shocked silly by the scene before her. Chapter 7. Chapter 7, The Birth of Baby Fox 7. Who could tell her why was the child she had given birth to a fox without fur? Furthermore, This fox was actually holding onto her clothes and calling her mother. Forget the fact that she had just given birth to a fox. How could a fox who had just been born speak human language? Was this an attempt to trick her because she wasn't well read? 1. Who are you? After holding it in for a long while, Bai Yan finally squeezed out these 3 words. Mother, baby hungry. The little fox had a pair of cute eyes. They were clean and ignorant as they latched onto Bai Yan pitifully. Bai Yan, who was originally feeling depressed over the fact that she had given birth to fox, was thoroughly won over by the little fox's cuteness. Baby hungry, drink milk milk. The little fox grabbed Bai Yan's clothes and slowly crawled onto her body as its perverted little paws tugged her clothes open and slowly started to suckle. Burp. After having its fill, the little fox gave a burp of satisfaction and peacefully closed its eyes to rest in Bai Yan's embrace. Bai Yan looked at the little fella sleeping in her arms and a corner in the bottom of her heart was touched. Her gaze slowly turned gentle. I have given birth to you after 10 months of pregnancy. Therefore, no matter who you are, you're my son whom I'll protect with my life. At this moment, she was still unaware that because of the birth of her child, all beasts were greeting their king, creating a majestic scene. State preceptor, state preceptor. Within a luxurious palace, a young maiden was rushing toward a man who was stargazing. Her expression clearly showed her excitement. Was that a sight of all beasts worshipping their king earlier? Even the demon beasts in our demon realm were alarmed. Does this mean I have a little nephew already? The state preceptor looked toward this reckless young maiden and smiled. Your Highness, the place at which I had previously sent the king over was the place that the queen would appear at. However, I did not tell the king everything. From what I can tell, the king has found the queen and the next generation's king of the demon realm has already been born. 1. In all these years, the king did not marry a wife and did not even have a concubine. It was because of a prophecy that said he needed to wait for his destined wife and only this wife could give birth to the next generation for this king. All these years, that woman did not appear. However, not long ago, he noticed from the movement of the stars that the queen was about to come to this world. Therefore, after searching for the accurate location, he directly threw the king there. 4. That is great. My imperial brother is finally bidding farewell to all those years of being a male virgin. The little princess leaped up in excitement as she hugged the state preceptor's arm as she said in a spoiled manner, State preceptor, why don't you send me over to the mainland? I want to see my imperial sister-in-law and my little nephew. 1. Little princess, I took advantage of the seal's weakening to send the king over. If you wish to go over, I would need to find an opportunity. The state preceptor gave a helpless smile as some doting could be seen in his gaze. The little princess stuck out her tongue cheekily. Fine. When you find an opportunity, allow me to find my imperial brother and imperial sister-in-law, as well as my cute little nephew. Perhaps it was the birth of her nephew that made the little princess very excited, for she, who used to always entangle the state preceptor, did not continue entangling him but instead walked in the direction in which she came from under his pampering gaze. It was a pity that she had not walked far when she was blocked by a beautiful figure. What do you want to do? The little princess asked without being nice. Princess, did the king really go to find that woman? This was a woman who was very bewitching. She was like a rose, extremely outstanding and glamorous. 1. She's my imperial brother's destined wife? If my imperial brother doesn't go and see her, could it be that he'd see you? The little princess' face darkened as she angrily glared at the woman. Chapter 8. Chapter 8, The Birth of Baby Fox 8. The woman was disdainful. It was merely a prophecy. She did not believe that offspring could not be born if the king were to marry other women. Just that thinking about the scene where all the beasts were prostrating, she felt a little panicked in her heart. If there's nothing, move aside. My imperial brother will never like such flirtatious, despicable cheap goods like you. After the little princess spat out these words, she turned sideways and walked away from the woman. The woman's face turned livid and looked at her retreating figure with a dissatisfied gaze. At the same time, at the second prince's manor, Bairuo weakly panted on the bed after a cry rang out. She raised her hand to wave and dismiss all the other people in the house, leaving behind only a single maidservant. Later, Luer spread the news that I had delivered prematurely. Thankfully, I was protected by the heavens and managed to safely give birth. Bairuo was already having an affair with the crown prince before their wedding and even got pregnant. However, this matter could not be made known to others. The only way was to say that she had delivered prematurely. Yes, princess consort. Luer agreed. Oh, right, princess consort, something very odd happened in the mainland just now. Now everyone's still shocked by the event. What odd matter? Bairuo asked casually. I heard that just now, all the spirit beasts worshipped in the direction of our Luhuo kingdom. All beasts greeting their king. Bairuo's eyes lit up as the corner of her lips curled up into a smirk. Luer, order some people to create some rumors. Just say that all the beasts had prostrated themselves on the ground because of the birth of the imperial grandson. All beasts greets their king, the world united under one. With such conditions, how could she not use it? Furthermore, Luer had also said that all the beasts were worshipping in the direction of Luhuo kingdom. With she herself as the noblest woman in Luhuo kingdom, who knows if those demon beasts were really worshipping her own child? Luer knew what should and should not be asked as a maidservant. Therefore, she respectfully said, yes, princess consort. After receiving her orders, she retreated. Bairuo lay in an empty room all alone, unable to hide the pride and happiness in the corner of her eyes no matter what. Bai Yan, so what if your noble birth is as the eldest daughter of the Bai family and as the granddaughter of the Lan family? In the end, didn't all the things you like still end up in my hands? Power, position, everything is mine. Even my son is nobler than yours. My son isn't only the first grandson of the emperor but he's even received the worship of all beasts. As for you, your body is ruined and your reputation is in tatters, and this will infamously continue for 10,000 years to come. Your child is also nothing more than a B****. How could he be comparable to my son's nobleness? In this life, you'll never be better than me. 5 years later. Sitting in a bamboo house in the middle of the lake, a lady in red lazily laid on the soft couch. The stunning side of her face was shrouded in the sun and was a bit more dazzling than that light. At this moment, she felt that something furry was on her face, as if there was a tail gently sweeping past her face. The young lady impatiently opened her eyes. With this look, she was shocked till she directly leapt up from the soft couch and angrily shouted, Bai Xiao-Chen, you'd better come rolling out. The whole house of foxes was already taking up her space and there were a few of them that had nowhere to stay. They climbed onto her, filling her nostrils with the smell of foxes. Bai Xiao-Chen, who had previously hidden outside the hut, knew that he had offended his mother. He slowly walked in from the door, his big clean eyes turning steadily, as if trying to think of some countermeasures. Bai Xiao-Chen. Bai Yan gritted her teeth. Can you tell me what's going on? Chapter 9. Chapter 9, The Birth of Baby Fox 9. Her final word was spoken very heavily as an intent of anger could be vaguely seen in her slightly narrowed eyes. Mother, baby found these foxes. Bai Xiao-Chen gritted his teeth as tears of grievance started to pool in his big eyes. Baby wishes for a daddy. Can you choose one from among them for baby as a daddy? When all the foxes heard Bai Xiaoquan's words, they directly stumbled and fell to the ground, terrified till they were trembling. My ancestor, could you not scare people so badly? Become your father? Even if we had 100 more guts we wouldn't dare. Bai Yan saw the tears pooling at the bottom of Bai Xiaoqin's eyes and her heart soften as her tone also turned gentler. Baby, you can't just simply find a fox and make him your dad. It can only work if he and your mother are both willing parties. Do you understand? Seeing Bai Yan's anger vanish, a gleam flashed in the bottom of Bai Xiaoqin's eyes. This method he was using to deal with his mother was practically a sure-win method, and there had not been even a single failure. Mother, then can we search for father? Bai Xiaoqian pounced into Bai Yan's embrace. His body was soft and small with a faint hint of milky fragrance. There wasn't even a bit of the aura a fox should have. Bai Yan's expression stiffened. The man's dangerous gaze once again appeared in her mind, and her heart subconsciously created a barrier of resistance. Oh, your father is already dead. Bai Yan let out an "oh" and perfunctorily dropped a sentence. Mother, are you bullying baby for being uneducated and therefore lying to baby? Daddy is obviously still alive. Baby can feel his existence. Bai Xiaoqian pursed his small lips and his small pink jade-like face turned red from anger. Bai Yan's lie was seen through, and it was a little awkward. Actually, mother doesn't know who your father is too. If we find your father and if he wishes to take baby away from mother's side, what should we do? Bai Xiaoqian went silent. He had never considered this problem before, had he? Father would want him to be separated from mother. No. Not possible. He cannot leave mother. Mother, baby doesn't want daddy anymore. He's a bad egg who will snatch baby away. Bai Yan remained silent. Now, her son was all that she had. She absolutely wouldn't allow anyone from taking him away from her side. If there was someone who really dared to snatch her son, she would fight him to death. At Luhuo Kingdom, in the Marquis Manor, a handsome devil of a man sneezed. His heart was full of doubt. Could it be that there was someone scolding him behind his back? Was it those officials in the demon realm? No matter what, his current task at hand was still more urgent. He still needed to find the woman who had actually dared to rape him 6 years ago. The moment he thought about how he had just arrived at the mainland and his pure virgin body which he had kept for so many years was snatched away by that hateful woman, he gnashed his teeth. If that woman was before him, he would have the urge to rip her into pieces. In the bamboo hut, Bai Yan already sat up from the soft couch and stretched lazily. Baby, we'll go and see your grandmaster tomorrow to bid farewell. It's time to leave this place. It had already been 5 years. She wasn't sure if those people still remembered her existence. Bai Yan closed her eyes as a chilling gleam swirled at the bottom of her eyes, making the temperature around her fall quite a bit. Mother, are we leaving? Bai Xiaoqian happily leaped up as an innocent, pure smile appeared on that perfectly sculptured face of his. Those foxes in the house let out a breath of relief. This ancestor was finally leaving, so they didn't have to constantly be frightened and worried. Mother is bringing you back to see your uncle. It's been 5 years and I don't know too if your uncle is doing well. In the Bai family, the only concern she had was Bai Xiao. Chapter 10. Chapter 10, The Birth of Baby Fox X. Bai Xiaoqian waved his small hand excitedly. Xiaomi, go and pack my stuff together with me. After Xiaomi, the little white tiger that was sunbathing by the door heard the sentence, it lazily raised his head to look at him. I'm a white tiger. Can you not treat me like a little cat and order me around? Bai Xiaoqian immediately became unhappy as he crossed his little hands on his hips. His small face crumpled. Xiaomi, as a cat, you're denying your own identity. This is already your fault. Now you don't even know how to meow. If the little white tiger was a human, one would be able to easily notice his face twitching. It was thinking that it was, after all, the descendant of a white tiger and it would be able to show of its might all over when it becomes an adult. However, this little ancestor was treating it as a cat and even fed it small little dry fish. It really wanted to eat meat. What was it to do? Xiaomi, quickly meow for me to hear. If you meow, there will be meat for you to eat. Bai Xiaochen took out a piece of roasted meat from who knows where and shook it in front of the little white tiger. That fragrance wafted into the little white tiger's nose made the white tiger almost drool. He gulped and his eyes lit up. And then, under the temptation of this delicious food, he had called out without integrity, "Meow. That's a good boy." Bai Xiaochen threw the roasted meat over to the little white tiger and patted its head. "There will absolutely be meat to eat by following baby." The little white tiger nodded vigorously. As long as it had meat to eat, what was integrity considered? Bai Yan looked at the interaction between this human and beast with a hint of laughter in her eyes. Her palm held the back of her head as she laid sideways on the bed. Her red dress sprawled like a carpet, looking extremely beautiful. Such a warm scene was one she would never allow others to come and destroy in her entire lifetime. If anyone dared to snatch her son, she would overturn the whole world and would definitely not let him off. A cold, chilling gleam flashed in her eyes. Bai Yan's body left the bed and her hair fell straight down like a waterfall. Her demeanor after just waking up still had a thread of laziness to it. "Come, follow mother to bid farewell to your grandmasters." The courtyard was in the middle of the island. Peach blossoms filled the courtyard and the pink petals were pouring down, like a rain of flowers everywhere. Such a paradise was distant from the noise of the world. It was quiet and peaceful. Of course, that was on the premise of ignoring the loud boom of explosion. After hearing this explosion, Bai Yan's expression darkened. Bai Xiaochen, who was by her side, noticed the change in her expression and secretly sighed to himself that someone was about to get unlucky. He quickly followed suit and grabbed Bai Yan's hand. That innocent pair of eyes revealed a happy at someone else's misfortune smile. Within the forest, besides the peach blossom petals scattered on the ground, there were also herbs that Bai Yan had planted all these years. These herbs were all her hard work, and now that she saw the herbs turning into a piece of wasteland, her heart was practically bleeding. Suddenly, Bai Yan raised her gaze and looked toward the old men who stood in front of her in a flurry, not knowing what to do. Who was it who had failed at pill refinement and exploded my herbs? Bai Xiaochen, who was by the side, added on another sentence. My 3 grandmasters, leniency will be given if confession is made. Strict discipline will come with resistance. All of you had better explain it honestly now. My disciple, this matter isn't related to me and old second. The first master put on a solemn expression and spoke righteously, heartbroken. Your second master and I came rushing over after hearing the sound of the explosion. Who would have known that old third, this B** starred, was really too much. First he had stolen your pill recipe and even tried to refine the pill on his own. Now he even blew up your herbs. I think that you definitely can't let him off. Second Master Renyi also stood by the side and sang the same tune as he did. That's right, our baby disciple, we're here to catch the culprit. Now we leave old third to you to deal with. We won't interfere regardless of how you scold or beat him. You all, Third Master Qiu Shurong's old face flushed red. He was obviously not lightly angered by these 2 shameless fellas. In the future, don't you dare say that I know you guys. Chapter 11. Chapter 11, A handsome man like a painting eye. Stealing the pill recipe was their decision together, and even refining the pill had also been done by the 3 of them together. In the end, things are really going well now. These 2 shameless traitors pushed all the responsibility to him. Disciple, hear out me out. Qiu Shurong awkwardly smiled as he had no idea where to place his hands. His face was full of flattering intent. I was also just curious about the pill recipe in your hands and had therefore thought of borrowing it. Wait till I manage to refine this pill, I'll return it to you then. Wait till you manage to refine the pill? Then wouldn't the whole island be ruined by the explosions? Bai Yan's expression was very ugly. Furthermore, this time, you've all really made me suffer a great loss. How should this score be settled? Zheng Qi and Ren Yi exchanged a glance, and taking advantage that Qiu Shurong had yet to react, one person went over to tightly press down on his shoulder while the other immediately quickly took away the space storage bag hanging by Qiu Shurong's waist and walked over to Bai Yan with a hee-hee. Disciple, one man's actions is to be held responsible for by that one man. This matter was an accident that Old Third had brought upon, and everything in the storage bag is Old Third's lifetime belongings. I'm now using it to compensate you for your loss. Qiu Shurong's old face immediately darkened as he angrily roared, Zheng Qi, Ren Yi, you two traitors. Ren Yi patted Qiu Shurong's shoulder. Old Third, we only have this baby disciple Yan'er anyway. All that is ours will belong to her sooner or later. Why do you have to be so calculative over these material things? Tell me, am I not right? These words were indeed not wrong. Qiu Shurong suppressed the bleeding in his heart and glared at Ren Yi ruthlessly. Why don't you bring out your storage bag? You're the one who has done wrong. Naturally, you should also be the one who compensates. Ren Yi had an expression that implied it is only naturally so, as he spoke without the least bit shame. Bai Yan used her concentration to examine the storage bag and found out that it was actually filled with some extremely precious herbs. Those herbs could not be easily bought even with money. With this, her attitude also softened as she said with a smile, seeing that you're all very sincere in your compensation, I'll hand that pill recipe to all of you. I'll also give all of you the refining method of the pill recipe. Qiu Shurong, who originally looked like he was experiencing great heartache, suddenly had his old eyes light up after Bai Yan finished speaking. Disciple, you're not lying to us masters, are you? Are you really willing to teach us? However, I'll need to leave for a period of time for now. Once I return, I'll teach you all pill refinement. The chilling gleam in Bai Yan's appeared. It had been 6 years. She had left the Bai Manor for a full 6 years. She had also allowed those people to have enjoyed 5 years of time. This time, she would make all those who had hurt her regret immeasurably. The few old men's gazes dimmed. All these years had allowed them to slowly understand their baby disciple's past clearly. Qiu Shurong went silent for some time. I heard that the second princess consort gave birth to a royal son 5 years ago. Back then, there was a sign from the heavens and all beasts had greeted their king. The people were spreading the word that the reason all beasts had greeted their king was because of the second princess consort's son. Therefore, the second princess consort has already become the crown princess consort today. Disciple, it's not that I'm worried about your cultivation, but rather, the people of the Bai family are truly too shameless. I'm worried that you'd be disgusted by them. Ren Yi also pondered for a moment and said, why don't we do it like this? I'll send people to follow you back. If anyone dares to bully you, you can directly kill him. With Master here as your backer, you can even walk sideways in this mainland and it would still be fine. Chapter 12. Chapter 12, a handsome man like a painting too. There's no need for that. This time, I'm going back not only for the sake of revenge, but I also wish to investigate a matter clearly. A bright light flashed in Bai Yan's eyes. Furthermore, what I want isn't just the disappearance of Bai Manor. I want them to fall from up high, and I also want them to return every single benefit that they've obtained from the Lan family. The few old men exchanged glances. Through their interactions all these years, how would they not know this little brat's temper? No one is able to stop her from what she had decided on. Don't worry, my 3 grandmasters. Bai Xiaochen confidently patted his chest. Baby will take good care of mother and won't let those bad guys bully mother. Bai Yan's heart warmed. With such a son, would there still be any regrets in this life? After that, Bai Xiaochen said another sentence. If I can't do it, I will roast Xiaomi alive. The pitiful Xiaomi, which was nodding off in Bai Xiaoqin's arms, almost fell out of his embrace when he heard this, his blue eyes full of complaint. What had this to do with this? Alright then. Qiu Shurong sighed. Be careful on the road. If there's anything you need, you can come and find me. That's right, young master is here. Before you leave, would you like to meet him? Godfather is here. Bai Xiaoqin's big eyes blinked. He tugged Bai Yan's sleeves as he pitifully said, Mother, let's go see Godfather and bid him farewell. All right. Bai Yan held Bai Xiaoqin's little hand and nodded slightly toward the few old men. Since he's here, then it wouldn't be right not to meet him. Farewell, my few masters. After she finished speaking, Bai Yan slowly turned around. Dressed in red, she was beautiful enough to topple a city. She was stunningly picturesque and very quickly disappeared from the old men's sights. Eldest brother, old third, Renyi laughed a bitter laugh. We've really shamed the reputation of being the chief pill masters of the Holy Land. I feel that our pill refinement skills are truly unable to match our baby disciples. And all those pill recipes of hers, I've never even seen them before. Qiu Shurong very proudly raised his head. Didn't you notice who was it who brought back this little brat back then? However, we've already hidden away this little one for a number of years. It's also time for her to shock the world. I can already imagine those shocked expressions of the B***stards from Medicine Gate. As the number one sect of the mainland, Medicine Gate always had their eyes stuck way up and disdained the pill masters from the other forces. They had hidden away Bai Yan for so many years, all for the sake of allowing her to suddenly appear and shock the masses one day, thus allowing the group of B***stards from the Medicine Gate to realize that their pill refinement skills were not comparable to hers but that their disciple was stronger than anyone. 1. At this moment, Bai Yan, who had already left, was unaware of those few old men's thoughts. She had already halted behind the hill. The lake was reflecting the image of the hills, the man was as handsome as a painting. The man's back faced Bai Yan. His white robe was lightly fluttering as his ink-black hair gently flowing. With a hand behind his back, his body was straight and upright. It was merely a back view, yet it was sufficient to make the ladies of the world feel amazed. Godfather! Bai Xiaoqian immediately noticed the man standing by the side of the lake. His eyes instantly lit up as he raised his small and short arms to wave at him. The man slowly turned around as a single hand remained behind his back. The corner of his robe was lifted by the gentle breeze. He was obviously a man that was like an immortal who had descended to the earth. However, his eyes were distant and indifferent that it made one's heart ache. Bai Yan looked at this incomparably handsome man who stood before her. I heard Master saying that you've come, so I specially came over to bid you farewell. Xiaoqian and I will temporarily be leaving for a period of time. Chapter 13. Chapter 13, I'm back. Warmth gradually filled Chu Fengji's eyes. If there are any areas that you need help in, I can help you. Bai Yan casually pinched a falling petal. In this gentle breeze, her hair that cascaded like a waterfall was fluttering along with the wind. A gentle and stunning smile appeared on her face. Fengji, do you think that this peach blossom is beautiful? Chu Fengji looked at the woman who was smiling as brightly as the flowers in full bloom and his concentration was a little dazed. In his eyes, no matter how beautiful the falling peach blossom flowers were, they were not as beautiful as the stunning smile of this woman. It's a pity that no matter how beautiful a peach blossom is, it will still wither and fall. And I'm absolutely unwilling to become a peach blossom that cannot survive when leaving the big tree. I only wish for myself to be able to bloom into a peerless beauty without relying on anyone. Chu Fengji awakened from his dazed stupor and his gaze was a little complicated. I understand your meaning, but, if you want to find support in the future, I'm willing to be yours and little Chen's support. Before that, I will stay by your side as an elder brother. Seeing that Chu Fengji understood her meaning, Bai Yan flashed a smile, held Bai Xiaoqin's hand, and slowly turned around. Let's go, Chen. All right. Bai Xiaoqian bade farewell to Chu Fengji with a smile. See you, Godfather. Chenner will miss you. The color of peach blossom covered the sky as Chu Fenji stood atop a peach blossom tree, watching Bai Yan and Bai Xiaochen leave from a distance. Even after the two familiar figures disappeared entirely, he was unable to retract his gaze. Under the reflection of the color of the hills on the surface of the lake, he appeared lonely and desolate. Outside the courtyard, Bai Xiaochen blinked his big eyes as he looked at his own mother and spoke with a soft, mushy voice. Mother, don't you like Godfather? It is not that mother dislikes him, it's just that I treat him as only a relative. Since there are no possibilities with him, I naturally will not give him any hope. She had always liked to do things decisively and not drag things out. If she did not love him, then she would never give the person a shred of hope. Bai Xiaochen nodded half understanding. Although baby really likes Godfather, baby likes mother more. Everything mother does is correct. Bai Yan pinched Bai Xiaochen's soft, little face as she said with a smile, let's go, follow me home. Mother, do you think uncle will like Chenner? Do you also care if other people like or dislike you? Because mother likes him, so baby also wishes for the people that mother likes to like me too. Since you've already said that he is someone mother likes, then he'd naturally like you. Bai Yan held Bai Xiaochen's little hand as their figures slowly grew distant. In this empty and quiet courtyard, all that was left was their voices. 6 years could not be considered long, but neither was it short. Within these 6 years, there were huge changes in Luhuo Kingdom. Firstly, the second princess consort had given birth to the first royal grandson back then, and it was during the birth of this royal grandson that there were signs from the heavens and all beasts welcomed their king. It was rumored among the people that the one all the beasts were worshipping was the eldest imperial grandson. While the word demon beast carried the word demon, but in reality, they had an extremely noble identity in the mainland. They were even more so the symbol of strength, and one who could rule the demon beasts would also definitely be worshipped by people. Therefore, an order was made for the second prince to be crowned as the crown prince and the second princess consort also become known as the crown princess consort. Besides that, what caught the attention of all the women of the world was the sudden appearance of a Marquis, Dikang, 5 years ago. Dikang had unknown origins and his whereabouts were unpredictable. However, he was able to convince His Majesty, and to be able to use Di1 as a surname, one could see how much importance His Majesty placed on him. Furthermore, Dikang did not only have strong cultivation, but his looks were absolutely handsomely devilish. Just a look at him could make all the women on earth go mad for him. Chapter 14. Chapter 14, I'm back too. At the Marquis Manor, a man quietly sat before the study table. His phoenix eyes were slanted and flirtatious. After leaning back lazily, half of his robe was open as his purple robe was gently raised by the gentle breeze. His attitude was domineering as he coldly glanced at the guard who was kneeling on the ground. Have all of you still not found the person I ask you to look for? Marquis. The guard's back had already long been drenched. Cold wind swished by and he could not help but shudder due to the cold. That lady you mentioned did not have any specified looks nor surname, so I am unable to investigate. The man who was originally sitting down quietly slowly stood up as his voice was a little cold. I'll give you another half-month's time to find that woman. If you can't, bring back your head to meet me. 3. I understand. The guard slowly stood back up from the ground and retreated after receiving his orders. His thighs were shaking. Every time he came to speak to the Marquis, he needed great courage. Just his mighty aura alone was sufficient to make him unable to raise his head. After the guard left, the man's eyes narrowed slightly. The humiliating scene from 6 years ago once again appeared before him. The teacup in his hand could not withstand his clench, and with a thud, it turned into dust. The boiling hot tea splashed onto his large hand, but yet he did not notice it. How dare you rape me and even have the guts to escape? Even if you escape to the corners of this world, I will use my entire lifetime to drag you back out. 6 years ago, he had just left the demon realm. His cultivation was being constrained and had caused him to fall into unconsciousness. The one who had forcefully woken him up from his unconsciousness was that death-deserving woman. It was a pity that because he had passed through the seal which affected his sight, the woman's looks could only be vaguely seen. He originally wished to settle the score with her after his body recovered, but who would have known that the woman sweep her butt after eating him clean? 3. Marquis. At this moment, a guard walked in hurriedly and said respectfully, "Sixth princess is here. She says she wants to see you." Dick Hang's cold gaze swept past the guard as his voice almost seemed able to suppress one's nerves, causing the guard to immediately kneel down in terror as cold sweat dripped. "Do such small matters need to be reported to me? Chase her out." However, Sixth Princess said that if Marquis does not meet her, she will not leave the Marquis Manor. Dick Hang, who had originally intended to leave, stopped after hearing this sentence. His cold voice, which carried an air of dominance, rang out. "Then just throw her out." The guard felt his whole body tremble. In this Luhuo kingdom, the only person who would not bother giving any face to the royal family was his own Marquis. However, his Marquis was so arrogant and his Majesty had still quietly let things slide. No, it should be said that his Majesty did not dare to bother about it. Dick Hang stroked his purple robe and had already stepped out the main door of the study. Dressed in a purple robe with a head of long silver hair, he appeared extremely dazzling under the sunlight of this clear morning. In the streets of this city, Bai Xiaochen held Bai Yan's hand as his wide eyes were roaming all around. His gaze was filled with curiosity, as if he had never seen such a lively scene before. "Mother, are we going to meet Uncle first now?" All these years, the person Mother had been talking about was Bai Xiao alone. Therefore, Bai Xiaochen had long carried a heart of anticipation toward this uncle of his. "No, not for now." Bai Yan stopped. "I've changed my mind. I won't bring you back to the Bai family home yet. Instead, I'll get people to buy a house in this city and you'll stay there first. There will be someone to look after you." The rim of Bai Xiaoqin's eyes turned red as he pitifully tugged Bai Yan's hand. "Mother, is it baby that made you angry and that's why you want to leave baby behind? Baby knows his mistake, baby will not simply find a daddy anymore. Please forgive baby." Chapter 15. Chapter 15, I am the eldest miss of the Bai family. Baby, do you think the people of the Bai family are qualified to meet you? In this busy street, Bai Yan stopped and she looked down and her line of sight stopped on Bai Xiaoqin's white, tender, small face. Bai Xiaoqin's brows raised. He already had the aura of a king at such a young age. In the Bai family, besides uncle, the rest of them aren't qualified to meet me. Then isn't that fine? Mother will find a chance to bring your uncle to meet you. Before that, don't let the people of the Bai family know of your existence. Even if Bai Xiaochen was mature and understanding, he was still a child. All these years, no matter whether it was his 3 grandmasters or Chu Fenji, they would put him in the palm of their hands and pamper him. He had never suffered before. Therefore, Bai Yan did not wish for Bai Xiaochen to hear those filthy words. "Mother, then let's pinky swear. You must bring uncle to meet me. You aren't allowed to coax and lie to me just because I am young." Bai Xiaochen pouted as he stretched out his finger. Bai Yan's expression immediately darkened. "Young? Coax and lie to him? Does he really think that he's an ordinary 5-year-old child? In this world, there's only him cheating others, there are none that could cheat him. All right, let's pinky swear." No matter what Bai Yan was thinking in her heart, for the sake of coaxing Bai Xiaochen now, she still decided to hook her own pinky to Bai Xiaoqin's pinky. "Now you should believe me, right?" Only then did Bai Xiaochen reveal an innocent, pure smile. "Mother, what kind of a place are you going to prepare for baby?" Baby is going to say in advance that I won't live in the place if the environment is not comparable to Holy Island. Bai Yan vaguely mumbled. When you're outside, don't have such high requirements. It's sufficient to have a place to live in. If you speak too much, I'll immediately send you back. Even the imperial palace of Luhuo Kingdom was not comparable to the Holy Island. He actually wanted to have an environment that was like Holy Island. Was this little fella still asleep? Daydreaming? Mother, baby knows his wrongs. You, such a beauty, isn't on the Holy Island, and facing those old men daily would cause baby to lose it. However, mother, you need to remember to come back to make food for baby or baby and Xiaomi will starve to death otherwise. Xiaomi, who was nestled in Bai Xiaoquan's embrace, raised its head and growled lowly, as if agreeing with Bai Xiaoqian. In the outside world, Bai Yan instructed that it was not allowed to speak the human language. It could only use this kind of ways to express itself. I'll find you a cook, Bai Yan said as she patted Bai Xiaoquan's head. Also, you aren't allowed to be picky. Bai Xiaoqian lowered his head, feeling aggrieved. How could those cooks be comparable with his mother's cooking? However, in order not to be sent back to Holy Island, he was very obedient and did not mention a word of opposition. In Luhuo Kingdom, the Bai family, as one of the 4 prestigious families, also naturally had their manor on the most prosperous eastern street. Coincidentally, the house in which Bai Yan had sent people to search for was also nearby Bai Manor. Furthermore, compared to Bai Manor, its environment was quieter and the mansion was more elegant and noble. Mother, although this house isn't comparable to Holy Island, it is a lot better than Bai Manor. On the way here, they had passed by Bai Manor and Bai Yan pointed it out to Bai Xiaoqian. Now that Bai Xiaoqian saw that his own house far surpassed Bai Manor, there was no need to mention how happy he felt inside. Umph. Who allowed these bad guys to dare bully mother? Baby, this isn't Holy Island, so don't take advantage of my absence and cause trouble. Do you understand? Bai Yan patted Bai Xiaoquan's should and instructed sternly. Bai Xiaoqian blinked. Then, what if someone bullies baby? Chapter 16. Chapter 16, I am the eldest miss of the Bai family too. Then beat him to death. Bai Yan raised her brows, obviously forgetting that she had just instructed Bai Xiaoqian not to cause trouble. If you beat him to death, mother will take responsibility. If it isn't enough, you still have your grandmasters. 1. Who would dare to bully her son? Bai Xiaoquan's gaze roamed. With mother's words, he could be assured. Mother only said not to let the people of the Bai family meet him, but she did not mention that he could not proactively cause trouble for these people. 1. If he did not vent his anger on behalf of his mother, how could he possibly be reconciled? Mother, baby will wait for your return at the house. Don't forget baby just because you have uncle. Bai Xiaoqian tugged Bai Yan's sleeve and looked at her pitifully. Bai Yan's expression darkened. Was her memory so poor that she would forget the son she had given birth to after 10 months of pregnancy? Mother, your memory is widely known to be bad. Bai Xiaoqian glanced at his own mother from the corner of his eye and knew what she was thinking. You could even forget baby's daddy, who knows if you would forget baby one day. 3. Bai Yan raised her hand and knocked Bai Xiaoquan's little head. You think about so many things from day till night. Xiaomi, look after him. This was not the first time Bai Yan had left Bai Xiaoqian. In the past, she did not wish to borrow the strength of her masters to take revenge, and therefore within these past few years, there had been a period of time when she was establishing her own might outside. However, this was the first time being apart from Bai Xiaoqian after bringing him away from Holy Island. Bai Yan naturally felt a little worried. In her eyes, Xiaomi was more reliable than Bai Xiaoqian. Xiaomi gave out a wooing sound and patted its own chest confidently, as if guaranteeing that it would definitely take good care of Bai Xiaoqian. With Xiaomi's guarantee, Bai Yan left feeling assured. Xiao am I? Bai Xiaochen looked in the direction at which Bai Yan left and felt a little reluctance in his heart as he bit on the bottom of his small lips. Baby is so good looking, so uncle will definitely like me, right? Tell me, if mother brings uncle back, what gift should baby prepare for him? Why don't we give uncle half of those pills that mother makes for us as snacks? Bai Xiaochen did not know how precious pills were, but he had merely seen his few grandmasters exchanging blows for the pills mother had refined. Therefore he thought that uncle would definitely like them. Xiaomi rolled its eyes and did not reply Bai Xiaochen. He left Bai Xiaoquan's embrace with a rustle and found a warm spot to lay down and bask under the sun. It had been many years, but the magnificence of Bai Manor remained. Bai Yan stood in front of the gate of Bai Manor. The humiliating scene from 6 years ago flitted before her eyes, causing her eyes to narrow slightly and a chilling gleam to appear. 6 years. I have finally returned. She was back. The good days of all those people were also about to reach an end. She would take back everything that they owed her. Who are you? The guard who was standing guard by the doorway saw the approaching Bai Yan and a hint of surprise flashed in his eyes, followed by disdain. This is the threshold of Bai Manor. Not everyone can enter. All these years, I have seen numerous women like you who dream of entering Bai Manor. There was a saying, how did it go again? Looking at people lowly from a dog's eyes one. This guard who was before her truly explained what this phrase meant. No, to say that he had dog's eyes was insulting dogs, which were loyal animals. I am the eldest miss of the Bai family, Bai Yan said, her voice turning slightly cold. Tell me, am I qualified to enter? The eldest miss of the Bai family. That was to say that this lady in white was the eldest miss of Bai Manor who had gotten pregnant before marriage 6 years ago and ran off with someone. Am I to believe you just because you say that you are the eldest miss of Bai Manor? The guard very quickly regained his sense and mocked. If you can't bring out proof, then get lost. Chapter 17. Chapter 17, So-Called Father I. Bai Yan was blocked at the doorway by the guard. She did not get angry, but instead, only took 2 steps closer to the guard. Zhang Yao, the son-in-law of Bai Manor's housekeeper and using your identity as the son-in-law of Bai Manor's housekeeper, got a job at Bai Manor and obeys orders from Yurong's mother, Madame Yu. If I guess correctly, you stopping me is also Madame Yu's order. With every word Bai Yan said, the guard's expression turned uglier. His identity as the son-in-law of the Bai housekeeper was not a secret in Bai Manor. However, the matter of his obedience to old Madame Yu's orders was something even the head of the house did not know about. Madame Yu was fearful that with the fame of the Bai family, there would be women who came to seduce Bai Zhenxiang and therefore asked you to stop everyone who wished to step into Bai Manor. Am I right? A smile hung on Bai Yan's face. Before coming over, she had already looked into the details of everyone in the Bai family. Even these servants of the Bai family were not missed out. If it was not for the fact that he had a backer, he would also not dare to be so presumptuous here. A surprised, doubtful voice suddenly appeared in front of the quiet Bai Manor doorway. Just as Bai Yan looked over in which the sound came from, the person behind her had already teetered in front of her, with a pair of beautiful eyes full of disbelief. You are eldest sister. Bai Yan looked at the delicate and sweet young maiden before her and secretly sighed in lament in her heart. Was this considered enemies meeting on a narrow road? She had just returned to the family gates and she had directly met Yurong's daughter. Eldest sister, it really is you. The young maiden had a face full of smiles. Did you know that your disappearance all these years caused my maternal grandmother to be worried sick? My mother also missed you day and night. It is really great that you're back now. The young maiden's small face was pinkish as her bright-lit eyes were like stars in the night. Zhi'er, this is your Bai Manor's lady who was unfaithful and had gotten pregnant before getting married, the eldest miss, Bai Yan? Tisk, tisk, never thought that a woman who had just lost her innocence also dares to come back. That group of young men and maidens who were following behind Bai Ji all swept a disdainful glance at Bai Yan, as thick intent of sarcasm could be seen in their eyes. A woman who had gotten pregnant without getting married beforehand and even eloped also dared to return to the Bai family. You're all not allowed to talk about my eldest sister like that. Bai Ji was so angry that her entire small face turned red. Even if this matter is truly the fault of my eldest sister, she's still my blood relative. My mother has also loved her all this while. She'd rather allow second sister and I to be aggrieved rather than to let her feel aggrieved. If you all bully her, that is to be standing against Bai Manor. Bai Yan's eyes narrowed slightly. In her impression, Bai Ji had never been an innocent and kind person. Back then, these two sisters had allied together quite a bit to bully her together. 1. Just now she was still wondering if that Bai Ji actually learned how to speak on her behalf. As it turned out, dogs can't change their habit of eating sh*t. You mother indeed really loved me. Bai Yan swept a glance at Bai Ji. She kindly wished to help me lose weight and therefore ensured that I did not have full 3 meals a day. She was absolutely fearful that I would squander away my mother's dowry and therefore kindly helped me to manage it. She was afraid that I would be too much of a show-off, so since my mother's passing, I never had even a bit of jewelry. Bai Yan successfully saw that Bai Ji's expression turned ugly and the smile by her lip also lifted broader. Therefore, I would indeed like to thank your mother for loving me as such all these years. When her words were spoken, Bai Yan strode in past Bai Manor's main gate. She held her head high and puffed her chest out, entering Bai Manor proudly after 6 years of absence. The crowd was in an uproar. Back then, Bai Yan was known as the #1 beauty in Luhuo Kingdom, but she was very skinny even after puberty. She did not even have the slightest bit of meat in her chest and she frequently faced the world without any makeup. Without mentioning jewelry, no one had ever seen her put on even rouge or powder. Chapter 18. Chapter 18, So-Called Father 2. In the past, they had thought that Bai Yan could not accept her mother's passing and therefore did so. From her words today, it seemed that it was actually because there was some hidden reasons. Don't listen to her nonsense. Bai Ji did not bother to put on her pretense as she crossed her arms by her waist and said angrily. To think that I kindly tried to protect her and she actually accuses my mother instead. Really, kindness does not beget kindness. It's no wonder she would do such shameful things. She maliciously glared at the direction in which Bai Yan left and ruthlessly clenched her fist. So what if you came back? My second sister is the crown princess consort. The crown prince loves and pampers her to the extreme and this place no longer has a place for you. Bai Yan's return was not intentionally covered up. Instead, she was high profile in letting everyone know that she had returned. Bai Zhenxiang was also startled. He urgently rushed back from the outside and immediately called for a clan meeting the moment he got back and also sent people to call Bai Yan over. However, from the beginning to the end, that stunning figure did not appear. Only until Bai Zhenxiang was about to lose his patience did the girl in red slowly made her way without a care about being late. 1. Under the sunlight from outside the door, the girl's looks were beautiful enough to topple a city. Her red robe was extremely outstanding. Compared to the skinny figure 6 years ago, at this moment, her figure was fuller and her hair fell behind her, displaying her snow-white jade-like neck in contrast. Yurong, who was sitting by Bai Zhenxiang's side, tightly clenched her fist. Her heart was full of jealousy and it felt as if her heart was being pricked by needles, and it felt unbearable. She had given birth to 2 daughters, but none of their looks was comparable to this despicable person's. Good thing the heavens was still fair, giving her such peerless looks while at the same time giving her the constitution of a trash. If it were not the case, Ruoer would not have had a way to substitute her to become a person of the royal family. Yan'er, you've returned. No matter what Yurong was thinking about in her heart, there was not a trace of her emotions displayed on her face. She carried that pretentious smile and said, it's great that you are back. All these years, your father has worried quite a bit about you. Quickly acknowledge your wrongdoings before him, he'll forgive you. Wrong, you don't need to speak on behalf of this rebellious daughter. Bai Zhengxiang's expression darkened as he shouted loudly. Bai Yan, kneel immediately. Kneel. Bai Yan sneered. Even when she was acknowledging her masters, the three masters of hers were not willing to let her kneel. What rights did this Bai Zhenxiang had to ask this of her? I was not wrong. There is no need to admit to my wrongdoings. She came to the Bai family merely to meet Bai Xiao. As for the other people, besides her vengeance and hatred, there were no other remaining feelings. Presumptuous! Bai Zhenxiang yelled angrily as he slammed the table and stood up with an expression full of pain. Do you know how much shame you brought to the Bai family because of what you had done back then? If it were not for Wrong constantly speaking out on your behalf, I would have long cut you off the family registrar. Clan head, don't speak any more. Yu Rong immediately tugged at Bai Zhengxiang's sleeve with an aggrieved expression. I am, after all, her stepmother. No matter what I do, it will not be interpreted well. Instead it would complain as me being too much of a busybody. Bai Zhenxiang was obviously still in the midst of his rage as he immediately flung Yu Rong's hand away. She does not even admit her faults, why are you still speaking up for her? Bai Yan, do you know that because you eloped, your maternal grandmother was angered till she fainted? Your mother had also almost cried out of anger. As for you, you're still such an ingrate. Bai Zhenxiang really raised a white-eyed wolf. From today onwards, the Bai family registrar will no longer have you. Bai Yan's laughter was very low and deep. Not sure if you mean my maternal grandmother in the Lan family. Or do you mean the one in front me? If you're talking about the one before me, I really wonder when she had become my maternal grandmother. As for my mother, she has long been dead. Chapter 19. Chapter 19, So-Called Father 3. Old Madam Yu had never thought that this little brat would become even more stubborn and hateful after 6 years of not meeting. She was so angry that she started bawling on the spot. What kind of evil did I commit to have worried for such a white-eyed wolf for so many years? Xiang since your biological daughter does not allow me to stay in the Bai family, then should I leave now? Bai Zhenxiang had always been very filial. Although old Madame Yu was merely his aunt, he had always treated her as if she were his own biological mother from the beginning to the end. Now that he was hearing old Madame Yu's bawling, he was so angry that he kicked toward Bai Yan's knees. Kneel down and apologize to your maternal grandmother. A chilling light flashed in the corner of Bai Yan's eyes. Her body turned sideways and dodged Bai Zhengxiang's foot. Bai Zhenxiang kicked into nothing and this made him stomp in anger. Bai Yan, you don't have to apologize to me, but you need to kneel to your mother and your maternal grandmother until they forgive you. Bai Zhenxiang, if I said that it was Bai Ruo who had framed me 6 years ago and that Madame Yu and Yu Rong had planned to sell me to the old man of the Jian family to be his concubine and that's why I had no choice but to escape, would you still force me to apologize? Bai Yan had intentionally said all this in order to understand how heartless Bai Zhenxiang could be. However, Bai Zhengxiang's words that came after made her fully experience why having a stepmother would definitely equate to having a stepfather. Bai Yan, you really disappoint me. How can there be such a malicious person like you on this earth? Ruo is so kind. You're actually saying that she framed you? Wronger and old madam have also loved you as a biological daughter but yet in the end, you are so ungrateful. Bai Zhengxiang's eyes were full of disappointment. To be honest, when Bai Yan returned, he still had a thread of hope in his heart. As long as she knelt down and admitted to her wrongdoings, he would have forgiven her. He had never expected this brat to be so insistent on her ways and not regret a thing, and even plan to frame others to justify herself. Servants, bring out the family law. Bai Zhengxiang's expression darkened bit by bit as he said solemnly. Bai Yan, I'm beating you for your own good. Otherwise, you would never know how to regret and change for the better. Bai Yan's gaze turned cold. Let me see who would dare touch me. Her awe-inspiring aura exhibited suppression with the words she uttered, making the guard who was about to walk out of the door stiffen and afraid to move. Not to mention that guard, even Bai Zhenxiang felt his breath hitch and his expression turned extremely ugly. Bring me the family law. Today, I want to discipline this rebellious daughter well. After a while, Bai Zhenxiang gritted his teeth and shouted in anger. Just as the guard was about to retreat after receiving his order, a snow-white robe appeared by the doorway, blocking the guard's path. Xiao, why are you here? Bai Zhenxiang looked at the young man who appeared by the doorway. His expression turned slightly better, but his frown remained as he asked. The young man did not say a word, but walked past Bai Yan, his gaze cold and detached. His snow-white robe was floating lightly in the wind, as if shrouded in a cold light. You previously said that you wanted to chase her out of the Bai family. Since that's the case, then you're unable to use the family law on her. The young man's tone was very cold and detached. From the moment he walked into the main hall, he had never once looked at Bai Yan. Bai Yan's gaze never once moved after the appearance of the young man. However, when she felt the young man's cold detachment that seemed to push people away for 1,000 miles, she felt her heart tingle. All these years, she also did not know what the young man had experienced, that the innocent, kind young man back then would turn this cold and detached, not getting close to anyone. Chapter 20. Chapter 20, Why didn't you bring me away? In the end, she's still my daughter. Saying that I wanted to chase her out of the family was merely words of anger. As long as she can turn from her evil ways, I will forgive all the past wrongs she had committed. Bai Zhenxiang frowned slightly. He was not one to forget the relationship between father and daughter. If it were not for Bai Yan's actions being over the top, he would not have possibly spoken such words back then. I only acknowledge the words you said before. She's no longer someone of the Bai family. Bai Xiao's icy cold gaze swept past Bai Zhengxiang's face as he slowly turned around, walked to the front of Bai Yan and paused momentarily. Leave with me. Seeing that young man's lonely and proud back, Bai Yan felt the bottom of her heart tingling. She did not reject the young man and left in the direction in which the young man walked toward. Seeing Bai Xiao ignoring his own words, Bai Zhenxiang was livid. Yu was such a gentle and kind woman. How did she give birth to such a pair of stubborn, donkey-like son and daughter? Husband, it is all my fault. Yu Rong pretentiously wiped the corner of her eye. Not only was I unable to bear you a son, but I also did not dare to discipline Xiao too much for fear that he would tell the Lan family that I, as his stepmother, was ill-treating him. Therefore, Xiao ended up being so disrespectful toward elders. Yu Rong's aggrieved voice made Bai Zhengxiang's expression turn slightly warmer. You can't be blamed for this matter, the blame can only be placed on the old man of the Lan family. Xiao is his grandson and his temper is just the same as his. If the Lan family's old man did not have such a stubborn personality, Xiao would also not have inherited such an ass-like temper. All these years, Bai Zhenxiang was never grateful for all the benefits the Lan family had brought to him. Instead, he resented the old master of the Lan family. If it were not because of old master Ian's obstruction back then, he would have long become husband and wife with Lan Yu. Then, things would not have dragged out for so long. However, even if he was not willing, so what? Lan Yu had already fallen in love with him to the point she was unable to extricate herself. How would she be willing to leave him? As for Xiao, there indeed is a need to teach him more. Why don't we do it this way? I will give you the authority. If Xiao does something wrong, you can beat him or scold him to your liking. If the Lan family comes to the door, I will block them. Bai Xiao was his only son. In the future, he would be the person to inherit the Bai family. However, all these years, he was too accommodating toward the son of his and had practically never been bothered about his matters. If things continued on like this, Bai Xiao would definitely be ruined. And with Yu Rong managing to teach such an outstanding pair of daughters, she was definitely a qualified mother. With her teaching and guiding Xiao, he could also work hard outside without worry. Husband, don't worry. I will teach and guide Xiao as if he was my own biological son. Yu Rong lowered her gaze, hiding the dangerous gleam in the bottom of her eyes. Lan Yu, you had stolen my position back then. However, your daughter is ruined by me and your son has thoroughly fallen into my hands now. Even if you had your maiden family as your backer and you were the #1 beauty in this world, so what? In the end, I still won. Naturally Bai Yan was unaware of Bai Zhengxiang's request to Yu Rong. At this moment, she was quietly walking behind Bai Xiao. Her dark pupils never once leaving the young man's cold and detached back. Xiao, after a long while, she halted. Under the rays of sunlight falling on the courtyard, her voice was full of longing. The young man's body stiffened as he stopped under the afternoon sky. His snow-white robe fluttered in the wind as he did not turn his head back, leaving his back to face the woman behind him. Have you been well all these years? Have you been well all these years? The young man tightly clenched the hands by his side. Under Bai Yan's gaze, he slowly turned around. Yet that handsome face had long been covered in tears. Chapter 21. Chapter 21, Why didn't you bring me away? 2. Actually, I should hate you. Hate you for leaving without bidding farewell, hate you for leaving me behind all alone in the Bai family. But the moment I saw you, I just realized that I'm still unable to hate you. Bai Xiao's tightly clenched fist eased up. His footsteps were very slow as he walked toward Bai Yan step by step. Back then, why did you not bring me away? Even if I had to wander around with you, even if we couldn't have 3 full meals, it would have been better than staying behind in the Bai family without you. The young man's voice trembled as tears filled his eyes. But why did you leave alone? Why did you leave me behind? In this Bai family, I only have you as my sole relative. But in the end, even you had abandoned me. Xiao, Bai Yan's lips moved slightly. I'm sorry. In these 6 years, she had Chen's accompaniment and had the love and protection of her masters, but Bai Xiao had lived in this Bai family all alone for these entire 6 years. She could not compensate for what she owed him in this entire lifetime. I don't need your apology, the young man tightly held down Bai Yan's shoulders as his voice was hoarse. However, it instantly softened. I just wish for you to promise me that you'd never leave me behind in the future, all right? He scooped Bai Yan into his embrace and hugged her very hard. It was as if he was terrified that she would still disappear the very next moment. All right. Bai Yan could feel the young man's trembling body. She raised her hand and patted his shoulders as she said softly, I won't leave you behind again in the future. Bai Xiao slowly released the woman in his embrace. The tears on his face had yet to dry, but he revealed the first smile he had in 6 years. If you wish to leave, bring me along. No matter how much I have to suffer and no matter how much difficulties I would have to bear, I'm not afraid. As long as I have you by my side, everything would be fine. 1. I won't leave. She returned for the sake of revenge. Now that her revenge was yet to be completed, how could she possibly leave? Elder sis. Bai Xiao looked at Bai Yan hesitantly as he pursed his thin lips slightly. Actually, back then, on the night you disappeared, our maternal grandmother had sent people to seek you out and had intended to bring you back to the Lan family, but they were blocked by Yu Rong's people. I had planned to inform you, but those people disallowed me from entering the room to see you. The next day, news of you eloping with someone started spreading. A kind smile appeared in Bai Yan's mind. It was a pity that the original owner of this body had thought that her own mother had wronged the Lan family and had never had the courage to take a single step into the Lan family residence all these years. Are maternal grandfather and maternal grandmother doing well? The Lan family home was still her maternal grandparents' house. Even though they did not interact much, she could feel that the old madam of the Lan family was truly quite loving toward them siblings. All these years, old Madame Lan had sent people to send them, the brother-sister duo, over to the manor, but was rejected by Bai Xiao and the original owner of this body. Thinking about this, Bai Yan sighed. I really don't know who this pair of siblings learned their stubbornness from, making those who love them the most so worried. Our maternal grandfather is sickly. The Lan family is dependent on our uncle alone to hold the family up, so it's totally incomparable to the past. Bai Xiao glanced at Bai Yan. Furthermore, you also know that back then, maternal grandfather had gone broke in order to purchase the few bottles of pills and had intended to let uncle take them. But it was also then that mother insisted on marrying father. However, the Bai family was still unwilling to relocate to this city then. Naturally, there was a reason why the Bai family was unwilling to come over to this city. Was it not because he was fearful that with the Lan family as mother's backers, he would be unable to do as he pleased? Otherwise, he would not have immediately relocated to this city the moment the Bai family managed to squeeze into the top-notch prestigious families. Chapter 22. Chapter 22, Someone from the Lan family came I. Therefore, Bai Xiao's gaze slowly turned cold. Maternal grandfather and uncle gave all of those pills to mother out of worry for her. However, they had never thought that mother would give father all the pills. For the sake of purchasing those pills, the Lan family had not only used up all their wealth, but had even mortgaged countless family businesses. If their uncle was able to have a breakthrough in his cultivation with the aid of those pills, then the Lan family would not be facing such a loss. In the end, the pills in which they had paid such a huge price to obtain had all become Bai Zhengxiang's. The Lan family had also regressed for many years because of this. How did maternal grandfather get sick? Bai Yan frowned slightly and asked. Talking about this, Bai Xiao's face turned even colder as anger clouded his eyes. Isn't it all because he was angered by Bai Zhenxiang? This time, Bai Xiao did not use the word father but instead directly addressed him by his name. After mother passed away, maternal grandfather's body was getting weaker each day. 6 years ago, you had also disappeared, which caused him to worry so much that it became a sickness. A few days back, our cousin and Bai Ji had a little dispute and got into a fight. The two of them were both injured, but who would have known that Bai Zhenxiang would not bother figuring out the truth before rushing over to the Lan family to settle the score with maternal grandfather, causing him to be so angry that he fainted over. Bai Yan remembered that the day before she left, maternal grandfather already looked as if his body was not in good condition. In addition to the blow caused by her disappearance, he definitely would have fallen sick without gaining a full recovery. Otherwise, Bai Zhenxiang would also not have dared to cause a clamor so arrogantly at the Lan family and even anger maternal grandfather to the point of him falling sick. With the Lan family's ability, it seems that purchasing pills should not be a problem. Why is it that maternal grandfather is sick but is unable to recover even after so long? Bai Yan gently rubbed her chin, verbalizing the question in her heart. Bai Xiao shook his head. I'm not too clear about the actual situation as well. Why don't we go over to the Lan family to see maternal grandfather? In these past 6 years, Bai Xiao had not been the way he had in the past, where he did not dare to even take a step into the Lan family residence. Instead, he frequented the Lan family residence to visit the old madam and old man. Now that Bai Yan had returned, he definitely needed to bring her over to visit the Lan family residence. All right. Bai Yan nodded. However, it was really coincidental that just as she was thinking about going over to the Lan family residence, the old madam of the Lan family received news that she had returned and had immediately sent people over to the Bai family residence. At this moment, in the Bai family's main hall, an old lady sat at a lowly position as she gently drank a mouthful of the cup of tea in her hands. She placed it down and said, My family's old madam is still the maternal grandmother of the Bai family's eldest miss. A maternal grandmother is missing her own granddaughter to the point that she's about to fall sick. Could it be that all of you still wish to hinder me? The old lady's voice was extremely powerful and her gaze was sharp, which made Bai Zhenxiang frown slightly. To be honest, he did not wish for his own son and daughter to be too close to the Lan family. Even Bai Xiao, who frequented the Lan family residence, was beaten by him. Yanner has just returned and her body is still sickly. I'm afraid that she is unable to go to your Lan. Bai Zhenxiang had not finished his words when he saw Bai Yan, who was walking over brilliantly closely followed by Bai Xiao. In that instant, his words were stifled in his mouth, stuck in the middle, unable to go up or down. His expression was also extremely ugly. You were sent by maternal grandmother to pick me up? Since that is the case, then let's get go. Don't let maternal grandmother get anxious waiting. Bai Yan acted as if she did not notice Bai Zhengxiang's existence, directly walking to the old lady's side instead as she spoke with her lips lifted. The old lady was a little surprised. Back then, she had also come over to invite Bai Yan over a couple of times but was always rejected. This time, Bai Yan was actually willing to accept. Bai Yan. Bai Zhenxiang shouted angrily. Don't forget that daughters who are married off are like water that is spilled. Since your mother has married me, then she's my wife. As for you and Xiao, both of you are also only my Bai family's bloodline. To you too, the Lan family are outsiders. Without my permission, you are all not allowed to return to the Lan family residence. Chapter 23. Chapter 23, The Old Madam of the Lan Family. Bai Yan was angered into laughter by these shameless words. I had only found out today that the blood that flows in my body is of the Bai families. I had even thought that you were merely my stepfather. Presumptuous. Bai Zhenxiang slapped the tabletop as he stormed in anger. You rebellious B*****. How dare you actually say that I am your stepfather? If I don't discipline you today, you would really be lawless. Guards, bring the family law over. Today, it is useless, regardless of whoever comes to plead. Bai Yan's eyes narrowed slightly as the hidden energy in her palm slowly formed. Just as swords were drawn and bows stretched, the old lady's sharp voice rang out. Stop. She stood up from the chair and the teacup in her hand was also heavily placed on the table. Bai family head, we can forget the fact that your Bai manor is ungrateful and bullies our Lan family people, but now you are firstly being rude and even wishing to discipline the Bai family's eldest miss. It seems like it is about time my family's old madam makes a trip to the palace and properly have a talk with the Empress Dowager. When Lan Yu was alive, the Empress Dowager had loved her a lot and had originally wished for her to marry the emperor. However, Lan Yu had insisted on not entering the gates of the palace and the Empress Dowager could only let things be. If it were not because Bairuo had already become the crown princess consort alongside the fact that the Empress Dowager was well into her years and was immersed in Buddhism, Bai Zhenxiang would not have dared to be so bold and reckless. Bai Yan, if you dare to leave with the Lan family's people today, you will no longer be the bloodline of my Bai family from now on. I hope that you can think it through properly. Bai Zhenxiang displayed an arrogant look as he spoke sharply. The corner of Bai Yan's lips curled upward slightly. Couldn't wish for more. Couldn't wish for more. Bai Zhengxiang's eyes widened as his breath became unstable. It was obvious that he was not lightly angered. What is this B**** saying? Couldn't wish for more? She would rather choose the Lan family, which is already in decline, and want to leave Bai manor which was flourishing at its peak. Get lost. Bai Zhenxiang shouted angrily. Immediately get out of my Bai family's gate. From now on, I, Bai Zhenxiang, no longer have this daughter. And you, his gaze turned to Bai Xiao who was by Bai Yan's side, clearly livid. Interact less with this kind of rebellious women to avoid being ruined by her. Anyway, you still have Ruo Er, who is such an outstanding elder sister, so there is no need for you to interact with such people. Bai Xiao, who had just turned around, halted when he heard Bai Zhengxiang's words. He said without turning his head back, "In this world, there's no one comparable to my elder sis." "What is Bai Ruo?" "Bai Xiao." Bai Zhenxiang stood up angrily, his fist clenched so tightly that it was crackling. "Just try it if you dare take a step out." Obviously, Bai Xiao could not be bothered about Bai Zhengxiang's reputation. After he finished speaking his words, that snow-white robe had already walked out the hall, walking over in the direction in which Bai Yan left. Bai Zhengxiang's expression was absolutely ugly. It was a pity that Bai Xiao was not Bai Yan. He could chase Bai Yan out of the Bai family without feeling any heartache, but Bai Xiao was his only son. The Bai family could not be without an heir. The old lady had also left unknowingly. Yurong looked at the direction in which this group of people had left and an evil glint flashed in her eyes, which turned into a sob. "Husband, I know that in Xiao's heart, the Ruo are sibling duo and I will forever be outsiders. In order for you and Xiao to reconcile, why don't you divorce me? I will bring Ji away from here." Bai Zhenxiang, who originally had a pot full of anger in his heart, heard Yurong's aggrieved crying and got even angrier. This is Bai Xiao unable to recognize people properly. "What has it to do with you? This brat Bai Yan has sinister intentions and cannot be compared to you and Ruo Er's genuine treatment towards Xiao. Sooner or later he will understand how big of a mistake he has made." Chapter 24. Chapter 24, The Old Madam of the Lan Family too. Was Bai Yan approaching Xiao not for the sake of relying on Xiao's aid to let the Bai family accept her? Despite her being a woman who had gotten pregnant before marriage and smeared the Bai family's name, he was merely thinking of punishing her. In the end, not only did she refuse to show remorse, but she even wanted to frame wronger and her daughter. Just based on this alone, she could not possibly continue to be the daughter of the Bai family. After Bai Yan left the main hall, she stopped. The gently breeze blew past and lifted up a corner of her robe. "Xiao, do you plan to stay in the Bai family or leave with me?" Bai Xiao was silent. After a long while, he raised his head and his determined gaze landed on Bai Yan. "Elder sis, back then, it was because I did not have sufficient cultivation that you were bullied by others. But now, I've gone through 6 years of hard work and have a firm foothold in the Bai family." Bai Xiao's handsome face seemed to emit a scorching brilliance. "I want to snatch back everything that belongs to us. I won't let the Bai family, which mother raised, fall into the hands of the mother and daughter duo. What I wish for even more is to protect you and not let anyone bully you anymore." The young man's gaze swept past Bai Yan's flat abdomen and his heart felt a slight pain as the rim of his eyes started to tingle. He did not open his mouth to ask Bai Yan about the child back then. When he saw Bai Yan returning without bringing the child back, he made a definite guess that the child must have been miscarried. The Bai Yan back then did not have any cultivation. To have been able to survive in this world was already very difficult. How could she have protected this child? "Xiao." Bai Yan turned around and gave Bai Xiao a hug. "You don't have to work so hard. If you wish for it, I can conquer the entire country for you." Bai Xiao smiled and did not agree with Bai Yan's words. He thought that Bai Yan was merely coaxing him to be happy. Within the span of 6 years, regardless of how fast she grew, it was certain that she did not have the ability to take down the entire Luhuo kingdom. "Elder sis, I have made up my mind. With my cultivation to protect you and since old lady Sun has come to pick you up today, why don't I return to our maternal grandparents' residence with you first?" "All right," Bai Yan raised her brows and leaned into Bai Xiao's side, using a voice that only the two of them could hear and said. "Since you have already decided, I won't stop you. If you can throw off the Bai family's spy, go to a place and find me. I will introduce someone to you." "The Bai family's spy?" Bai Xiao was momentarily stunned. Bai Zhenxiang had sent people to monitor him. Just as Bai Xiao was wondering how Bai Yan had noticed this spy, Bai Yan had already walked toward the outside of the courtyard, following after the old lady. Before she left, Bai Yan's gaze seemed to sweep past a huge tree inadvertently, her gaze carrying a cold gleam to it. It seemed like it was time she helped Xiao to get rid of these spies. The man who was hiding in the tree, secretly fixed on Bai Xiao, was shocked. He had hidden himself so well. How could that piece of trash possibly have noticed? It must have been merely a coincidence. The man comforted himself in his heart, no longer thinking about that glance Bai Yan gave before she left. He further remained unknowing that the date of his death was fast approaching. 6 years ago, Bai Ruo had yet to marry the current crown prince. Although old Master Lan was lying in his sick bed, the Lan family back then was still welcoming quite a number of guests. Now, with the passing of a mere 6 short years, the gate was already very deserted. Only a few people would occasionally pass by. Most people would take a detour, fearful that they would accidentally offend those from Bai Manor. At this moment, Bai Yan stood before the Lan family gate as she looked at the desolate doorway. Her calm expression hid the stormy waves of emotions within her. "Miss Bai, please enter. Old Madam has already been waiting for you for a long time." The old lady made a pleased gesture, her attitude still considered respectful. Chapter 25. Chapter 25, The Old Madam of the Lan Family 3. Lead the way. Bai Yan looked at the old lady and nodded. Under the guidance of the old lady, she stepped past the threshold. The Lan family's courtyard was different from the luxurious Bai Manor. Instead, it was a plain elegance that was like that scene of mountains and rivers, giving off a quiet and peaceful atmosphere. Bai Yan had just taken a few steps when she saw that not far away, old Madam, who had a head full of white, was clutching her walking stick with the support of another person and rushing toward her. "Yanner, are you Yanner?" Old Madam's tears started flowing. She only stopped when she arrived before Bai Yan. Using that rough and slightly trembling hand, she gently caressed her cheek. "Child, you have suffered all these years." The mere statement "you have suffered" made Bai Yan feel her heart tingle within. She raised her hand to support old Madam's trembling body. "Maternal grandmother, I'm here to see you. It's good that you're back. It's good that you're back." Old Madam's voice was trembling insistently. "Since you have returned, then stay a few days at the Lan family residence first. Old lady son, go and prepare a room for Miss Bai." "Yes." Old lady son respectfully bent her body. "However, old Madam, I think that Miss Bai might need to stay at our Lan manor permanently." The old Madam was stunned. Her expression instantly turned sharp. What happened? Yanner was the daughter of the Bai family after all. Now that old lady's son said that she needed to live at the Lan family residence permanently, then it meant that something had happened at the Bai family. "Old Madam, when I had gone to pick up Miss Bai, the Bai family had said that since our eldest miss married him to be his wife, then the Lan family are merely outsiders to Miss Bai. If she insists on coming to the Lan family, then he would chase her out of the Bai family." The eldest miss whom old lady son was referring to was naturally Lan Yu. Before Lan Yu married off, she used to address her that way, and until now, she was unable to change her way of address. Great. That Bai Zhenxiang. Old Madame Lan was furious. If it were not for the Lan family back then, would he have the success he has today? Now that his wings have hardened, he says that my Lan family are outsiders. It is fine even if you don't have this kind of white-eyed wolf of a father. After she finished speaking, old Madame Lan held Bai Yan's hand once again and very kindly said, "Yanner, you should just live at my Lan family residence in the future. If the Bai family does not want you, let maternal grandmother raise you. As long as maternal grandmother has a mouthful to eat, you will definitely not go hungry. Maternal grandmother, I will stay at the Lan family residence for a few days, but I won't stay here permanently, Bai Yan saw that old Madame Lan was about to say something and immediately interrupted. Don't worry, I have a place to stay in Luhuo Kingdom. If I really need assistance, I will come to the Lan family residence to seek you. Old Madame Lan patted Bai Yan's shoulder and sighed lightly. Your temper is just the same like your maternal grandfather's, equally stubborn. Forget it, I will not force you either. If you have spare time, just come over and visit this old lady. The Bai Yan of the past had been very lost when it came to these relatives of hers. She only knew that Bai Xiao treated her well. But now, it was only after hearing old Madame's words that she did understand. How much had that Bai Yan of the past missed out on? I heard that maternal grandfather is sick. Is he better now? Bai Yan thought about old Master Ian's problem and asked with a frown. He's still the same. Old Madame Ian's eyes dimmed. Yanner, I will bring you to see your maternal grandfather. Actually, in all these years, your maternal grandfather has also frequently talked about you, fearful that you were aggrieved outside. Old Master Lan had a very stubborn temper and he had even announced that Bai Yan was no longer the granddaughter of the Lan family after Bai Yan had left without a word back then. However, over the past 6 years, the old master had never once forgotten her. Especially today, after hearing that Bai Yan had returned, he immediately got old Madame to send people over to pick her up. Chapter 26 Chapter 26, Tier 4 Pillai. Mother. Just at this moment, a lady who stood by old Madame's side gave a gentle smile. This is the first time Yanner has visited our Lan family. I'm afraid that the servants will not make sufficient preparations. It is still better for me to prepare a room for her. All right, Rulan, I will trouble you with this matter then. Old Madame smiled gently. Yanner, this is your uncle's wife. All these years, you've never come to see the Lan family and it could be reckoned that you're still unfamiliar. That's right, you also have 3 elder cousin brothers and a younger cousin. When the time comes, I will introduce you all to each other. Hearing that, Bai Yan turned her head to look at Dongrulan and coincidentally, Dongrulan also raised her head to look over and gave her a friendly smile. Yanner, I think your maternal grandfather must be anxious. Let me bring you over to see him first. The old madam once again lightly patted Bai Yan's hand as a kind smile appeared on her face. Bai Yan did not do anything more as she supported the old madam's trembling body and under the guidance of a maidservant, she walked over in the direction of a bedroom. In a large bed with 4 pillars carved with flowers, old Master Ian's sickly body leaned against the wall behind him. His old eyes swept across the handsome man who was a little distracted and immediately glared at him. Why? Do you wish to see that little brat that much? Then why aren't you getting lost? I don't need your care. The man was a little awkward. As an uncle, I definitely need to meet my niece since she is back. Furthermore, who was it who kept looking outside since old lady's son left? What a joke. Why would I wish to see that brat? Don't you see how that brat never once came over to the Lan family to see me all these years and had even done such a thing like getting pregnant before marriage? Forget the fact that she had gotten pregnant before marriage. Even if the Bai family did not want her, it wasn't as if my Lan family would be unable to raise this pair of orphaned child and single mother. But see what good deed the brat did. She actually left without a word. Old Master Lan became more and more agitated as he spoke and his entire face flushed into a deep red, scaring the man so badly that he immediately used his hand to stoke the old master's chest. Tell me, what kind of sin did I commit in my past life to have provoked such a pair of mother-daughter that have angered me till I'm half dead? Father, ease your anger. Lan Yu was worried that the old master would be angered till the point he could not even breathe and anxiously said in comfort. Back then, younger sister also could not see through people properly and that's why she was cheated. As for Yanner, although I have not interacted with her much, I know her character. She would definitely not have had improper relations with others on purpose. She was definitely framed by someone. You just continue to make excuses for her. Old Master Lan harumphed as his gaze once again flitted to the outside of the door uncontrollably. It seems like it has been quite some time since old lady Sun had gone over to the Bai family residence. Why hasn't that brat been picked up yet? Go and take a look, don't let the people of the Bai family bully our Lan family's old lady. Lan Yu pursed his lips. If you're worried about Bai Yan, then just directly say so. To actually bring out the old lady, when Yanner comes over and faces father, who has the temper and stubbornness of an ox, I really don't know if she would be scared silly. Just at this moment, Lan Yu heard the voices of old Madame Lan and a lady speaking from outside the door. A hint of delight appeared in his eyes. Father, that should be Mother and Yanner who have come. Old Master Ian's fingers trembled but his expression remained calm as usual. The gaze which had flitted to the door earlier on was immediately retracted as he snorted. If they've come then they've come, do you need to be so excited? You just continue to pretend. Lan Yu secretly complained about his own father in his heart and no longer bothered about him. He left the head of the bed and walked toward the outside of the door. He had just reached the door when the room door was pushed open. A maidservant entered first and said respectfully, Old Master, Old Madam, and Miss Bai are here. Chapter 27. Chapter 27, Tier 4 Pill 2. Old Master Lan did not react, as if he had not heard the maidservant's words. However, the corner of his eye could not help but drift toward the doorway. Under the sunlight, the stunning white figure that looked as if it had come from a painting fell into their line of sight. The Bai Yan back then had never once stepped into the Lan family residence, but Lan Yu had previously seen the young her. The scrawny Bai Yan at that time was timid and frequently hid behind Bai Xiao, who was a head shorter than her, not daring to pop her head out. The current woman was slender and graceful, her smile was confident and perfect. There wasn't a shadow of her timidity in her back then. Lan Yu lamented in his heart. She had actually gone through such great changes after leaving the Bai family all these years. Humph. Old Master Lan swept a glance at Bai Yan and snorted. Who allowed you all to bring this brat in here? I don't wish to see her. Old Madam swept a glance at Old Master Lan. Since that's the case, then I shall bring Yanner away right now in order to prevent her from being yelled at by you the moment she returns. After she finished speaking, she turned around, held Bai Yan and said, Yanner, let's go. In the future, you don't have to be bothered about this old man. Old Master Lan was so upset that he couldn't catch his breath and started coughing vehemently. Lan Yu immediately went forward, stroking Old Master's chest. The old master managed to recover his breath after much difficulties before he spoke with his old face flushed. Since she's already back, the world would say I'm unreasonable if I were to chase her away again. I shall reluctantly let her stay, then. Could it be that this old woman did not know that he was merely looking for a stage for him to come off? But she was not even the least bit cooperative and even wanted him to put down his pride to make her stay. 2. Yanner, your maternal grandfather is really not the least bit truthful. Just now, when he received news of your return, he made you get old lady Sun to pick you up. In the end, because yours actions were a little slower, he was almost scolded to death by this old man. The old madam's face was full of smiles. Now that Yanner was back, they could finally put their worries aside. Old Master Lan saw that the old madam had revealed his shortcomings and immediately became angry, huffing his beard and glaring, so much so that his entire face was red. Uncle, can I take a look and see what sickness maternal grandfather has? Bai Yan looked at Lan Yu and said. Bai Yu was stunned, but he did not think too much and nodded. You can feel free to do so. We already have no way to deal with father's sickness. 1. After Lan Yu had finished speaking, Bai Yan had already arrived before the old master's bed. She had merely made a rough examination and got an estimation of the situation. Maternal grandfather's bodily functions are deteriorating and even his organs are failing. If this continues, perhaps maternal grandfather will not be able to hold on for more than a couple of years. Lan Yu's heart tightened as he said with a bitter laugh. I had previously gotten some pill masters to take a look at father's illness. They had also said more or less the same thing as you have. Furthermore, they even said that only a tier 4 pill, the rebirth reconstitution pill, could save him. But, in this mainland, pills are extremely precious. I'm afraid that even the royal family also merely have a couple of tier 4 pills. Many years ago, the Lan family did all they could to buy countless pills for Lan Yu, and those pills were all at tier 3. Despite tier 3 and tier 4 pills being merely a tier different, their prices were as different as the sky and the earth. Furthermore, in the entire Luhuo kingdom, there were not many tier 4 pill masters. Bai Yan looked at Lan Yu before looking at old Master Lan and old Madam. She touched her own nose. Very coincidentally, I also have a tier 4 rebirth reconstitution pill with me. It is just that this rebirth reconstitution pill was refined by my master during practice and the effects are merely mediocre. However, saving maternal grandfather shouldn't be too much of a problem. Chapter 28. Chapter 28, Tier 4 Pill 3. This rebirth reconstitution pill was the result of her master's practice when she had first started to teach her few masters refining. Although it was merely the works as a result of practice, it was still a successful product. In order not to waste it, she had kept it away and was planning to sell it off. Lan Yu sucked in a quick breath and immediately held Bai Yan's shoulders. Are you speaking the truth? Do you really have the rebirth reconstitution pill? The old madam was also very shocked, but the words she said were very different from Lan Yu's. Yan'er, you're saying that you acknowledged a tier 4 pill master as your master one. A tier 4 pill master was a character that even the royal family would deem as a guest of honor. Yan'er was actually able to live out her bitter life and finally taste the sweetness, acknowledging a tier 4 pill master as her own master. Bai Yan rubbed her chin lightly and gave an "oh. I guess you can say so." How were her few masters merely tier 4 pill masters? It was just that the pill refinement skills on this mainland was still a little different from her own learning in Huaxia. Nonetheless, the pills refined using the Huaxia's pill refinement skills were more effective. Therefore, she started to teach them from tier 1 pills. It was also how this tier 4 pill came about. Old Master Lan was not an ordinary person and his reaction was therefore naturally different from other people's. After he was merely slightly shocked, his expression regained its usual as he said sharply. Acknowledging a tier 4 pill master as your master is naturally a great thing. However, will he have an opinion toward you bringing out a pill that he refined to save me? It's better that you take this pill away. It's a chance that is hard to come by. How can you do things that would betray your master? Although old Master Ian's tone was a little stern, it still originated out of concern for Bai Yan. After all these years, he had also been in touch with those few pill masters. Those pill masters were each wise in their own way. Furthermore, he had personally witnessed a disciple taking his own master's pill to win the favor of a woman, and in the end, he was almost beaten to death by the pill master. The old master did not wish for Bai Yan, who had just finished living the bitterness of life and started experiencing the sweetness of life, to lose such an amazing master for his sake. Bai Yan raised her brows. My master loves me very much. He won't have an opinions. Furthermore, my family's pet always eats these pills like candies. 1. Old Master Lan, who had originally wished to say more, instantly felt the heartache to the point where his old face twitched when he heard Bai Yan saying that her family's pet ate these pills like candies. A bunch of spendthrifts. What were pills? They were items the people of this world could only dream of having. However, these two master and disciple actually treated the pills as candies that were being used to feed a pet. Bai Yan passed a porcelain bottle to Lan Yu. Contained within are the rebirth reconstitution pills. Let maternal grandfather take them and after a few days, his body will recover. Lan Yu's palm was trembling slightly. Inside the bottle were tier 4 pills. He could not help but get excited. Old Master Lan saw Lan Yu's hand trembling and his heart was on guard, as if greatly fearful that the porcelain bottle would be smashed with the tremble of Lan Yu's hand. It was a good thing that Lan Yu's hand clenched the porcelain bottle tightly and very carefully removed the cover to roll out a green pill, bringing it before the old master. "Father, quickly take it," Lan Yu immediately urged. At this moment, the old master did not notice that his hand was also trembling very badly and he used all his strength before he managed to take the pill from Lan Yu's hand. "Stinky brat, let me tell you, don't dream of using a pill to buy me over. If you don't properly give me a reason as to why you ran away from home, I will never let you off." Chapter 29. Chapter 29, A Not Too Beautiful Initial Encounter. After he finished speaking, old Master Lan swallowed the pill. After this pill entered his body, it became a surge of warmth, slowly flowing from his 5 viscera and 6 organs. At this moment, old Master Lan obviously felt his bodily functions slowly being repaired under the surge of warmth that was flowing within him. This wonderful feeling was one that he no longer felt ever since he was on his sick bed many years back. It was so enjoyable that he really wanted to laugh out loud. However, in the end, in order not to lose his reputation, the old master suppressed that enjoyable feeling within his heart. "I have taken the pill. Now, isn't it time you tell me why you left 6 years ago without a word?" His fingers gently stroked his white beard with a poker face as he spoke in a sharp tone. Thinking back on the things that happened, Bai Yan's eyes darkened a few shades. Getting pregnant before marriage was not my original intent. It was Bai Ruo's doing. For the sake of obtaining the second prince, she drugged me without hesitation in order to ruin my name and instead, allowing her to substitute me and marry into the royal family. Old Master Ian's fist instantly clenched tightly. Even the old Madam and Lan Yu who was standing up ahead could feel that change in his aura. It was as if a huge storm was growing in old Master Ian's body, slowly moving outward. The whole room's atmosphere became oppressive after Bai Yan's words. Such a huge thing happened. Why did you not return to tell me? Old Master Ian's voice was filled with anger as he scolded. I didn't even have the opportunity to bid farewell to Xiao'er, would I still have been able to return? Bai Yan's expression was calm. Back then, Bai Zhenxiang was not at home. Madame Yu and Yu Rong had schemed together and wanted to sell me as a concubine to the old man of the Qian family. I took the opportunity to escape when the Qian family's people were taking me away. Old Master Ian's breathing became more and more hurried as his tightly clenched fist also started trembling more terribly. He slowly closed his eyes, as if only by doing so could he ease the pain within his heart. After a long while, he finally opened his eyes and said a single sentence that was more honest and gentle in his entire life. Child, it is I who have misunderstood you. How much suffering had this child of his Lan family gone through at Bai Manor? What was laughable was that from the beginning to the end, he kept thinking that Bai Manor would not dare to treat her badly and that was why he had never noticed how his granddaughter was being ill-treated at Bai Manor. Yan'er. Lan Yu's eyes were filled with pain. He was feeling heartache for Bai Yan who had experienced such cruel matters at such a young age. Back then, you had escaped from the Qian family, but why didn't you come to the Lan family? Uncle and maternal grandfather would definitely made a decision for you. Bai Yan said with a smile. You may all believe me, but the world would not. The me back then was, after all, the daughter of the Bai family. If Yu Rong had insisted on taking me away, the public opinion would definitely be on the Bai family's side. I also have no ability to fight back. 1. The good thing was that she already had the ability now. All the harm she had received back then would definitely be paid back 100 or 1,000 times by those people. Little Yan'er, old Madam patted Bai Yan's hand as she sighed in heartache. Did you tell Xiao'er about these matters? Bai Yan shook her head. If Xiao'er were to find out that I was nearly sold off, he would definitely rush over to settle the score with you wrong. Now, there are still some matters that I need to investigate. Before making those matters clear, I will let the Bai family stay alive temporarily. Old Master Lan was obviously quite badly angered, and there was an ache in his chest that could not be suppressed. He used his strength to take a few slow breaths and said, "These few days, just stay at the Lan family, you don't have to be bothered about anything. If that group of B** stars from the Bai family dare to come to the door, I will immediately beat them up and drive them out. I've not reached a point where I'm unable to even protect my granddaughter." Chapter 30. Chapter 30, a not too beautiful initial encounter too. On another note, Old Master Lan said as he looked at Lan Yu with a solemn expression, "Immediately give the order, the granddaughter of my Lan family has returned and I want to throw a banquet. Let her return home proudly. He, Bai Zhenxiang, has overlooked a bright pearl, but my Lan family will definitely not make this kind of mistake." "Yes, Father, I will give the instructions right now." Lan Yu's tone also carried a hint of anger. If he had known the kind of person that Bai Zhenxiang was, he would have done everything without a care back then to stop his younger sister from marrying him and even harming Yan'er. "Little Yan'er, your uncle's wife should have already prepared your room. Maternal grandmother will bring you to rest first. You have really suffered all these years." Old Madame Lan sighed once again. She did not know exactly how the Bai family had treated Bai Yan, but just based on the fact that Yurong was brave enough to sell Bai Yan was enough for her to guess that Bai Yan's days at the Bai family were definitely not easy to pass. However, this brat was too stubborn. She would rather be aggrieved than to cry and complain to the Lan family. Otherwise, how would they have allowed the Bai family to treat her that way? "Maternal grandmother, I still have some matters to attend to and need to make a trip." Bai Yan thought about Bai Xiaochen. She had already left for half a day and she also did not know if that little fellow was getting used to the current life. Therefore, she needed to go and take a look, or she would otherwise not be at ease. "All right, go ahead if you have matters to handle. Don't forget to return and eat together." Old Madame Lan looked at Bai Yan kindly. She and Old Master Lan were in sync, with neither asking about the location of that child, afraid that this question would prick Bai Yan into pain. Under such a difficult environment, it was already difficult for her to have survived. That child must have been lost. Bai Yan saw that Old Madame Lan did not mention about Bai Xiaochen and naturally also did not open her mouth to mention about him. If she were to let the Lan family members meet Bai Xiaochen, she still need to return and ask for Chener's opinion. Therefore, after she bade farewell to Old Madame Lan, she left the Lan family and walked toward the bustling street. In the street, people were hustling and bustling. A man in a purple robe had a coldness in his narrow phoenix eyes. His looks were devilishly handsome and peerless. Even the words topple countries and cities were not able to describe his perfect looks. For a moment, all the women on the street were attracted by the man's looks, but from the start to the end, nobody dared to blatantly look at this man. Everyone knew that Luhuo Kingdom's Marquis Dikang had peerless looks, but also had a ruthless and vicious character. Especially toward women, it really could only be described as extremely ruthless. However, facing such a perfect man, many women still acted like moths drawn to a flame. Knowing full well that death would be the only path, they still dreamed of gaining his favor. Suddenly, Dikang stopped as a faint fragrance vaguely wafted past his nose, causing him to recall the woman who was entangled with his body under the clear moonlight that night. "Stop right there." Bai Yan, who was walking up ahead, had also heard this angry shout, but as she did not think that the other party was shouting at her, she continued on walking ahead with her own journey. However, she was very quickly stopped. This was a handsome man who looked like a deity from heaven, similarly devilishly handsome enough to surpass all living beings. Bai Yan had never thought that a man could actually look so peerless. To call him the number one beauty in this world was not an exaggeration. Beauty, is something that matter that you've stopped me. Bai Yan gently rubbed her chin, as if she was a debauched young master, looking provocatively at the devilishly handsome man before her. Chapter 31. Chapter 31, A Not Too Beautiful Initial Encounter 3. Dick Hang's eyes were full of fury as he raised his hand to press against the big tree behind Bai Yan, pinning her against it. Do we know each other? This sentence was spoken through gritted teeth. Fox's sense of smell of foxes was very sharp. The aura of this woman was just like that of the B***starred who had raped him. Bai Yan blinked. I've always never forgotten anything I've seen. If I've seen you before, I would not possibly forget. Therefore, I'm afraid that we do not know each other. Really? The corners of Dick Hang's lips curled up as he intentionally lowered his voice. Then, do you need me to remind you? 6 years ago, by the ancient path. 6 years ago, by the ancient path. Bai Yan was stunned. If it was 6 years ago, she had coincidentally been framed by Bairuo and had been drugged by an aphrodisiac. After she ran out, she had coincidentally picked up a man by the quiet ancient paths. Thinking about this, Bai Yan's heart thumped. She raised her head to look at the man's bloodthirsty eyes, and no matter how she looked, she kept feeling that this pair of eyes were really similar to the ones in her memory. Bai Yan's heart was panicking incomparably. However, her expression remained as calm as usual. You must have recognized the wrong person. 6 years ago, I did not go to the ancient paths. The man's big hand tightly pinched Bai Yan's chin, forcing her to face him directly. Whether it is you or not, wouldn't I know after a night together? I clearly remember the taste of that B***starred. 1. Wouldn't he know after a night together? A night together. These 3 words made Bai Yan's brain rumble as blood directly gushed up. She did not even give it a thought before she sent a kick to the man's back as she angrily shouted, "Crazy pervert!" The man groaned and released Bai Yan, who was bound in his hands. Taking this opportunity, Bai Yan immediately tunneled under his underarm before leaving speedily without turning back. Just at this moment, a guard came descending from the sky. His head was long covered in streams of cold sweat, and he really admired Bai Yan. There was actually someone on this earth who had the guts to lay their hands on the Marquis. Oh, that was not right, it should be feet instead. 2. Do you need me to catch that woman? He asked weakly as he wiped the cold sweat on his forehead. No need. Dick Hang's gaze was fixated in the direction at which Bai Yan left as he said in a deep voice, "Go and find out her identity for me, especially about if she had gone to the ancient path 6 years ago." Yes, Marquis. The guard respectfully agreed as he started to pray for Bai Yan in his heart. If this woman was really the person Marquis had been looking for, then according to the Marquis' brutal character, how would he treat her? That's right, Marquis. The guard fearfully lowered his head. The princess, Her Highness, is unwilling to leave and is still in the manor, kicking a fuss about wanting to meet you, Marquis. Dick Hang frowned as his tone turned slightly cold. I seem to have said it before to have you all throw her out. But this was the princess of the royal family after all. Even if you gave the few of them more guts, they would not dare to throw the princess out the door. Dick Hang's cold gaze swept past the guard who was kneeling below. Go to the punishment hall to claim your punishment. That man's cruel voice scared the guard till his legs trembled and almost crumbled to the ground. His face was pale as terror could be seen on his face. The punishment hall? To someone with his might, it was merely a place to carry out a slight punishment. But after entering their Marquis Manor's punishment hall, before one was crippled, they would definitely not be let out. Yes, I accept the punishment, the guard said with his lips trembling. Before the Marquis, any type of plea was useless and would instead make the punishment even heavier. Chapter 32. Chapter 32, The Woman Who Deluded About Becoming Marquioness Kang-I. Dick Hang's cold gaze swept past the guard as he waved his sleeve and turned around, walking toward Marquis Kang's manor in big strides. In the courtyard of Marquis Kang's manor, a young lady sat on the stone bench as her fingers lightly played with her hair, waiting in utter boredom. "Your Highness, Princess, please have some tea." The maidservant brought over a cup of tea, carefully placing it before the young maiden before respectfully standing by the side. The young maiden glanced at the porcelain cup which held the tea as her brows immediately straightened into a line. "Your manor uses this kind of cup to serve me? Why didn't you bring out those jade cups I just saw in the study? Or are you trying to tell me that you think that jade does not suit me?" Thud. The young maiden's hand fell onto the table heavily as her face was full of anger as she scolded with an arrogant attitude. The maidservant was shocked to the point whereby she knelt down and trembled. "Reporting to your Highness, the Princess. It is not that I am not willing to give you the jade cups, but rather, the jade cup specially belongs to the Marquis. The Marquis has always been obsessed with cleanliness and has disallowed others from touching his belongings. How gutsy of you!" The young maiden suddenly stood up and slapped the maidservant. The maidservant was sent crumbling to the ground by the slap. She used her hand to cover her cheek, her gaze full of grievance. "I am the future Marquis Kang. Everything that belongs to Marquis Kang also belongs to me from today onward. You actually dare say that Marquis Kang would disdain me?" 3. All these years, she had always been away acknowledging masters and learning arts. She had just returned to Luhuo Kingdom a couple of days ago and she had fallen in love with Dikang at first sight on the first day she returned. Although Dikang's reputation was known, the sixth princess disagreed that he was ruthless to women. However, she was still a princess of the royal family and she believed that he would not dare not give her some face. The maidservant was shocked to the point of not even daring to say a word more as she lowered her head even more, wishing she could just squeeze her entire body through the gaps in the ground. Future Marquis Kang. Just as the sixth princess thought that the maidservant was terrified because of her, a cool voice rang out from behind her. "Why is it that I'm unaware of that? Since when has there been an extra Marquis Kang?" The man's voice was gloomy, cold, and piercing, which made the sixth princess stiffen. After that, a bashful look appeared on her face as she slowly turned around, shyly and timidly lowering her small head. "Marquis, I have waited for you here for a long time. Why are you only returning now?" Her voice carried a hint of coquettishness, the way one would act coquettishly toward a lover. However, the sixth princess paused as her gaze ruthless glared at the maidservant who was kneeling on the ground. These maidservants in this manner are truly too presumptuous. To actually use these sort of second-grade cups to serve me. Dikang's line of sight slowly moved and landed on the cup which was atop the stone table. He raised his hand and picked up the cup as his phoenix eyes narrowed slightly and a chilling gleam flashed past. Crack! In that instant, the cup which was originally held in his hand instantly shattered. The hot, boiling tea fell onto his palm, but he acted as if he did not feel a thing, his voice carrying a cruelness. "You are not worthy to drink my tea. You are not worthy of drinking my tea." The sixth princess widened her eyes in astonishment as her face turned pale. Her lips trembled slightly as the initial astonishment in her eyes turned into anger. He actually dared to humiliate her like this. Dikang threw the shattered cup in his hand onto the ground. His palm lightly pressed on the stone table and with a rumble, the whole table crumbled and turned into ruins and piled up on the ground. "Clean up this place for a bit. Then, use salt water to wash all the places she walked past 10 times. Dikang patted his hands. The coldness in his voice made the sixth princess' heart start to tremble. Chapter 33. Chapter 33, The Woman Who Deluded About Becoming Marquis Kang too. She angrily roared. Dikang. As a princess of the royal family, when had anyone not acted according to her wishes? This man actually dared to treat her like this. Even the places she walked past were being disdained by him. Throw her out. When Dikang turned around, the sixth princess coincidentally reached out and wanted to grab his arm. In the end, because he had turned around, he only just managed to dodge the sixth princess' salted pig hand. However, even though that was the case, the young maiden's fingertips brushed past his sleeve. Dick Hang frowned. The surrounding guards and maidservant were so scared that they all dropped on their knees, shaking as they kept their heads lowered. Perhaps the sixth princess did not know what Dick Hang's frown meant, but all of them had been by Dick Hang's side for a couple of years. Once he made such an action, it meant that someone was going to be unlucky. Dick Hang. The sixth princess saw that Dick Hang stopped and raised her head to look at his handsome face as a flash of being stunned flitted across her gaze. I like you very much indeed. You also know that you're merely a marquis of a different surname, it is not proper. If you become my husband, then you would be truly a part of the royal clan. Dick Hang's palm exerted strength and his sleeves instantly were sent flying. His snow-white arm was revealed under the sunlight. The sixth princess was stupefied by the sight before her. She had never thought that there would be someone whereby even a single arm could look so good to such an extent. 1. If she could be held by this hand and walk out of the Kang Marquis manor, then even if she were to use all the glory and riches of her entire lifetime in exchange, she would be more than willing. Which hand did you use to touch me just now? Just as the sixth princess was still dreaming, the man's heartless voice once again breezed past her ears like the wind, making her heart instantly freeze into ice. It was so cold that she shuddered. Marquis Kang, I. The sixth princess looked at Marquis Kang, who was walking toward her with an expression that was a little ugly, and she could not help but take a few steps backward. At this moment, under the man's strong aura, she actually had an impulse to turn around and run away. That man was actually indeed, like the rumors said, too frightening. It was actually the first time that the sixth princess had a feeling of regret. If she had been given another chance, she would definitely not provoke this man ever again. Which hand? Dick Hang took 2 steps closer. His face was without expression and a bloodthirsty, cruel light could be seen in his phoenix eyes. Seeing as the sixth princess still did not reply, Dick Hang's voice, which carried an eerie feeling to it, rang out once again. If you don't tell me, I will cut off both of your hands. The sixth princess was so scared that both of her legs weakened and she almost crumbled to the ground. Marquis Kang, not matter what, I am still a princess of the royal family. Aren't you afraid that my imperial father will find fault with you? Even though she was terrified within, the sixth princess also would not show weakness before Dick Hang as she gritted her teeth tightly and forcefully squeezed out these few words. 1. Dick Hang sneered. Find fault with me? Then that would also depend whether or not he has the guts to do so. The man's voice was deafening and was even more so domineering, shocking the sixth princess that she raised her head to look at him and the bottom of her lip which she was biting hard trembled badly. Marquis. A guard by the side knew the man's character and was extremely fearful that he would really cut off both of the sixth princess' hands and urgently said, just now, I saw the sixth princess using her index finger on the right hand to touch you. His own marquis had always been a clean freak and had never allowed anyone to touch him. This sixth princess knew the marquis character very well and still insisted on causing trouble. Was this not pissing on top of a tiger's head? Seeking death. Cut off the index finger on her right hand. Throw her out. Dick Hang said coldly. If you take a single step into my manor again, the foot that steps in shall be cut off. The guard was so scared that his entire body shuddered. His face was full of terror. Could it be that he had offended the Marquis today? Why did the Marquis give him the order to do such a difficult task? Chapter 34. Chapter 34, Black-Bellied by Xiao Chenai. The sixth princess crumbled to the ground, shaking badly and appearing extremely pitiful. That tear-stricken face made the surrounding guards who were watching feel moved. However, Dick Hang remained poker-faced and actually looked down on the young maiden, who had crumbled to the ground before him. He was like an emperor who controlled life and death, with a single gesture able to determine one's life and death. Marquis. The guard saw Dikang's expression darkening and his heart immediately thumped. He stood up from the ground with shaking legs as he stumbled over to the sixth princess side. Your Highness, Princess, please forgive me. After he finished speaking, the guard immediately took out his sword. That cold shoulder made the sixth princess panic from the bottom of her heart. You dog of a slave! How dare you touch me? Before Dikang, the sixth princess was so terrified that she could not say a word. However, this dog of a slave was one that was bestowed by imperial father to Marquis Kang. What rights did he have to attack his own master? Princess, I also do not wish for this to happen, but offending the Marquis is more terrifying than death itself. You. The sixth princess wanted to retort in anger, but noticed a gloomy, cold oppression suppressing her body, making her unable to move, as if she was being squashed under a huge mountain. Ah! Just as the guard's blade was about to cut the sixth princess' finger, the sixth princess shrieked and her body fell over. She was directly shocked till she lost consciousness. Beneath her body was a pool of urine, reeking of a sour, foul odor. 1. The guard was stunned. The sixth princess was actually so shocked that she lost consciousness. Then, was he to continue or not? Thinking about this, the guard was about to seek Dikang's opinion, but all he saw was that the purple-robed, silver-haired handsome man had already left unknowingly. The gentle breeze blew past, and only the cool wind stimulated their minds. Then, what should we do now? Another guard asked worriedly as he stood back up. Throw out the sixth princess first. Naturally, there will be people who would bring her back to the palace. This isn't too good, right? After all, it is Her Royal Highness, the princess. For us to not send her back to the palace. That guard who was ordered by Dikang to cut off someone's finger swept at glance at his mate. Could it be that you wish to offend Marquis Kang? Although we are the people sent by His Majesty, Marquis Kang is our master now. Furthermore, we had been so rude toward the sixth princess today. There's no possibility of us returning to His Majesty's side? Perhaps, this was the reason why Dikang wanted them to take action. In reality, this guard had overthought things. The reason why Dikang did not take action was not to make the guards be in the completely same boat as he was. He had never been concerned about the royal family. So why was there a need for him to do so now? He just did not wish to dirty his own hands. That was it. At the corner of a bustling street, Bai Xiaochen held a little white tiger in his arms as his cunning eyes observed the people who were passing by. He asked in uncertainty, Xiaomi, are you sure that the daughter of that bad woman will appear here? The bad woman whom Bai Xiaochen was referring to was naturally none other than the Bai family's matriarch. You wrong. I personally saw those people walk into the restaurant. I reckon they will be exiting soon. Little master, how do you plan to settle the score with that lady? You don't have to bother about these matters. Later on, if you have the opportunity, scratch her. Ruthlessly scratch her for me. 2. Bai Xiaochen waved his small little fist as he looked so fierce. This look of his was so adorable no matter how one looked at it. It really made one unable to help but wish to pinch his little face. The little white tiger rolled its eyes as it said in objection, I'm a white tiger, not a cat. Chapter 35. Chapter 35, Black-bellied Bai Xiaochen 2. Have you ever seen a white tiger attacking with a scratch? They would normally directly maul, wouldn't they? She's coming. Suddenly, Bai Xiaoqin's eyes lit up as he immediately threw aside the scroll in his hands and exchanged glances with the young maiden dressed in pink. He said with a giggle, good thing that the Grand Masters had already known how mother would not let me interfere with the Bai family matters and had therefore given me the portraits of those people of the Bai family. That's why I could meet the Bai family people so soon. After he finished speaking, Bai Xiaochen immediately took some ash from the ground and wiped it on his own face. Instantly, that originally white and cute face turned dirty. The little white tiger's face darkened. What are you trying to do? Of course it is to make them unable to recognize me. 1. After Bai Xiaochen said this, he rushed over to Baiji, who was at the doorway of the restaurant. At this moment, at the doorway of the restaurant, Baiji had just wanted to walk down the steps when she suddenly saw a figure rushing from up ahead, almost knocking right into her. Baiji got shocked and as if subconsciously, she used her hands to push at that dirty little figure. Before her hand managed to touch him, she saw his body directly falling backward like a dumpling rolling off the steps. Baiji was stunned. She obviously did not touch him just now. Why did he just fall over? What? After Bai Xiaochen fell of the steps, he started crying after letting out a wah. He cried so pitifully, even worse than having one's dad pass away. Instantly, the people walking by were attracted. Meow. Xiaomi took its act so seriously it was already 1/3 embedded in his bones after it meowed. In order to express its attitude of protecting its owner, it instantly jumped up and slashed its paws at Baiji's face. 1. Baiji had just regained her senses when she saw the little white tiger about the size of a cat before her eyes and she immediately raised her arm to block it. Xiaomi's claw slashed opened her tender skin and blood flowed. It was so painful that she shrieked and tears could not stop flowing. What happened? Just at this moment, a man stepped out of the restaurant. He frowned and looked at Baiji, whose arm was bleeding profusely, before looking at Bai Xiaochen, who was crying desperately till snot was flowing and his expression was extremely ugly. Crown Prince. Baiji's tears covered her face as she looked very aggrieved. I'm also uncertain as to what just happened. I obviously didn't touch him, he had fallen over on his own. And this cat scratched me. Crown Prince. The Bai Xiaochen who had fallen to the ground had his pupils turning. He was the B***starred who had an affair with Bairuo and abandoned his own outstanding mother. At the same time, Nangongyi looked at Bai Xiaochen and his gaze darkened a few shades. If it were as Baiji said, then this little boy's schemes were too deep. You are a bad egg. Bai Xiaochen immediately got up from the ground as he used his dirty hand to wipe the tears on his face with a pitiful expression. Just now, I was hungry and had wanted to go in to find food. You saw me looking dirty and called me a little beggar, then even said that I was blocking your way and asked me to get lost. Sob sob, I'm just hungry. Furthermore, I have money. Daddy gave me a lot of money before he died. He definitely was unwilling to curse his own mother and could only bring up his father which he had never met before. 1. Baiji was so angry that her petite figure trembled. You're talking nonsense. You're framing me. Despite frequently bullying Bai Yan in the Bai family, in actuality, whenever Baiji and Bairuo were outside, they would put on a fake mask. This was also not unrelated to Yurong's guidance. Chapter 36. Chapter 36, Black-Bellied Bai Xiaochen 3. It was a pity. Just now, nobody had noticed the scene by the restaurant doorway and naturally, no one was able to stand out and be witness to Baiji's innocence. Crown Prince, don't believe him. He is framing me. Baiji immediately turned to Nangongyi as she anxiously explained. I'm not talking nonsense. Bai Xiaoquan's eyes were full of tears. Even if his face was dirty, his gaze was still pitiful that it made one feel heartache. If you hadn't pushed me, Xiaomi wouldn't have scratched you. Meow. Xiaomi proudly raised its small head, waving its claws as if showing off. At this moment, more and more people were gathering at the restaurant doorway. Under the pointing of those people, Baiji was so anxious that she was about to cry. Baiji, you've truly made me too disappointed. Nangongyi waved his sleeve as he said coldly. This young boy has no enmity with you. Why would he frame you? Furthermore, he's only 5 or 6 years old. How could such a young child have such deep schemes like you said? Bai Ji's face turned pale as she bit hard on the bottom of her lip, which was trembling slightly. Of the Bai family's daughters, none can compare to Ruo. Firstly there was Bai Yan, that despicable person who did not keep the ways of a wife, and then there's you, who does not even let off a child. Nangongyi was only concerned about lecturing Bai Ji, but did not notice that when he was insulting Bai Yan, the eyes of the little boy, who initially looked pitiful, immediately lit up with rage. However, thinking about today's aim, he lowered his head, not allowing anyone to take a clear look at the anger within his eyes. His slightly moving shoulders would only make people think that he was crying. "Your Highness, Crown Prince, listen to me explain first." Bai Ji was so anxious that she was about to grab Nangongyi's hand, but was ruthless shaken off by him. "Enough!" Nangongyi burst in anger. "The Bai family head had originally came to seek me out, wanting me to make a decision to allow you to become Marchioness Kang. I had originally thought that you were obedient and matured and had indeed wanted to speak on your behalf. Who knew that you would actually make things difficult for a child? Imperial father would definitely not allow you to cause trouble in the backyard of the Marquis Manor with that attitude of yours." After he finished speaking, Nangongyi walked down the steps without even so much as giving her a glance. When he arrived before Bai Xiaochen, he frowned slightly as a hint of disgust flashed in his eyes. This child was so dirty and was indeed dislikable. It was no wonder Bai Ji would do such things. It was just that as a member of the royal family, there was a need to keep up with appearances. If Bai Ji were to really enter the royal clan and still did not bother about reputation, then Imperial father would definitely be angered. At this moment, Nangongyi thought of his and Bai Ruo's child as his expression eased up. There was truly no child that could be compared to his own child. That little beggar was so dirty, messy, and hateful, as different as the sky and the earth when compared to his own child. Bai Ji looked at the direction in which Nangongyi left and her brain exploded with a rumble. Only 2 words were left floating in her mind: done for. This was all the little beggar's fault. Perhaps angered to the point where it rushed to her head, Bai Ji's gaze turned terrifying. "I'm going to strangle you to death." Seeing Bai Ji, who had lost her sanity, rushing over to him, a cunning gleam flashed in Bai Xiaoqin's eyes. He twisted his leg on purpose and fell to the side with an exclamation, while also coincidentally dodging Bai Ji's hands. The crowd only treated it as Bai Xiaochen having good luck and therefore managing to dodge it, not thinking too much into it. Meow. Xiaomi was angered. He knew that with Bai Xiaoqin's cultivation, a mere little Bai Ji was unable to hurt him. However, this did not mean that it would allow others to harm Bai Xiaochen right before its eyes. Chapter 37. Chapter 37, Black-Bellied Bai Xiaochen 4. Bai Ji's neck was instantly scratched open by Xiaomi's claws. She shrieked once again as tears flowed. She angrily said, "Death-deserving little cat, I'm going to crush your bones and scatter your ashes." Disdain appeared in Xiaomi's eyes as it dodged when Bai Ji came pouncing over. A mere small human could crush the bones and scatter the ashes of it, a descendant of the white tiger? Wait till it matured. Just spitting saliva at her would be sufficient to drown her. When Bai Xiaochen saw that Xiaomi was caught up playing, a hint of cunningness flashed in his big, watery eyes. He could sense someone already standing before him, and without caring who it was, he directly hugged the person's thigh. "Sob sob, save Chen'er. That bad woman wants to strangle Chen'er to death." The person before him had obviously stopped and his voice was cold and detached, yet it made the originally crazy Bai Ji go even crazier. "Bai Ji, not only do you oppress the weak but you even bully the young. Do you think that this is the Bai family where everyone can only be bullied by you?" Bai Ji angrily gnashed her teeth. "Bai Xiao, are you blind? Which eye did you use to see me bullying this little bum of a child? It is obviously he and that cat who are bullying me." Bai Xiao. This name made Bai Xiaochen, who was hugging Bai Xiao's thigh, stiffen. He slowly raised his head. It was also the first time he had directly looked at the young man whose thigh was being hugged by himself. The young man was dressed in a white robe, dashing but cold and detached. His gaze was cold as he looked at Baiji, who had a head full of messy hair. His aura was so cold that it made one feel as if one was experiencing the winter days. Bai Xiaoqin's tears flowed a pitter-patter. Uncle! It was uncle. This man was Bai Xiaoqin's uncle. Bai Xiao frowned as he lowered his head to look at the young boy who was still clinging onto his thigh without letting go, his gaze full of question. Bai Xiaochen regained his sense as he wiped away his tears. You look too alike to Chen's uncle. I couldn't hold back momentarily, so. Seeing this pitiful little fella who was before him, Bai Xiao felt a tinge of heartache. If elder sister's child were still alive, perhaps the child would have been around the same age of this little fella. However, Bai Ji actually did not let off even such a young child. The corner of his lips curled into a sneer. I've seen how you wanted to bully this little fella from just now. If it were not for the little fella having an amazing cat by his side, he would have definitely be wounded by you. Forget the fact that you usually throw your weight around in the Bai family, now you're actually bullying a child. After Bai Xiao finished speaking, he pulled Bai Xiaochen behind him to protect him. Today, as long as I, Bai Xiao, am here, don't even dream of touching a single strand of this child's hair. Bai Xiao. Bai Ji arranged her own messy hair as she ruthless glared at Bai Xiao. You're helping an outsider to bully me. I will definitely report the matter of the truth to father. Just you wait and see. Humph. She knew that if she stay behind here, there was nothing that would benefit her. After she spat out this malicious sentence, she left in a hurry. However, after Bai Xiaoqin's intentional smearing, Bai Ji's so painstakingly maintained image for many years had already been ruined. When Bai Yan escaped from Dikang's side, she immediately wanted to rush back to meet Bai Xiaochen. She had a premonition in her heart that this man was perhaps Chen's father. Therefore, she needed to make sure that she hid Bai Xiaochen away before that man found out about him. However, when Bai Yan was halfway through her journey, she saw Bai Xiaochen covered in dirt. In particular, Bai Xiaochen was still tightly hugging Bai Xiao's thigh. Bai Yan glanced at Bai Ji who was leaving in a disheveled state and then looked at Bai Xiaochen once again. Her face darkened. Chapter 38. Chapter 38, Bai Xiao's shock eye. On the street, Bai Xiaochen remained unaware of Bai Yan's appearance as his little hand tightly hugged Bai Xiao's thigh as the sun shone on his pinkish, smooth, jade-like skin. Uncle, Chen'er likes you. Why don't you follow Chen'er home? Bai Xiao looked at Bai Xiaochen who was still clinging onto his thigh and his gaze warmed. This little fellow was soft and adorable, and there was a faint milky fragrance on him. He was like a little bun, really making one cannot help but wish to take a bite. Where do you live? Why don't I send you back? Bai Xiao's hand gently rubbed Bai Xiaoqin's head as he smiled warmly. Ever since he first saw this little bun, Bai Xiao liked him from the bottom of his heart. Bai Xiaochen was delighted and was just about to reply Bai Xiao, but when he raised his head, he saw Bai Yan who was walking over with a dark look. He was instantly shocked and released Bai Xiao from his hands as his footsteps quickly retreated. I'm done for. Why is mother here? Elder sis, why are you here? A smile appeared on Bai Xiao's face as he asked. Bai Yan had a dark look as she swept a glance at Bai Xiaochen before moving her line of sight to Bai Xiao's face. Bring that little thing along and follow me. 1. This, Bai Xiao was obviously stunned. He scratched the back of his head, feeling a little tangled. Elder sis, it doesn't seem appropriate to kidnap and sell off a child. Bai Yan did not say a word. She turned around and walked straight up ahead. Bai Xiao hesitated for half a moment before picking Bai Xiaochen up and gave a short laugh. Little fella, although I really like you, but the world is big and the skies are wide. My elder sis is the greatest, so I can only offend you. He had originally thought that Bai Xiaochen would struggle, but who would have known that this little bun would obediently lay on his shoulders without moving, and that the little cat, who was still proudly showing off earlier, would also follow after him with its head down as if it had done something wrong. In the courtyard, it was clean and tidy. Bai Xiao followed after Bai Yan and entered. His clear gaze was full of curiosity, and when he was just about to ask, the lady before him stopped and sat down on a stone bench by the side. "Do you know your wrongs?" She lightly crossed her right foot, as her fingers, which were interlocked, were placed on the table. Dressed in red, her dominance was extremely obvious. Huh! Bai Xiao was stupefied. What did he do wrong today? Why was elder sister so angry? Just as Bai Xiao was trying his best to thinking of what exactly he did wrong, he saw that Bai Xiaochen, who was flung over his shoulder, hop off. Bai Xiaochen picked up Xiaomi, who was by the side, and questioned it with an angry expression. "Xiaomi, did you do something wrong to anger mother? Why aren't you quickly explaining yourself? Leniency will be given if a confession is made. Strict discipline will come with resistance." 1. Xiaomi was utterly dazed. Was there anyone on earth that was more shameless than its own little master? Indeed, amongst the demon beasts, foxes are the most cunning and insidious. "Mother." Bai Xiaochen smiled as he looked at Bai Yan. "Xiaomi says that he knows his wrongs. In the future, he guarantees that he won't do it again. Why don't you just forgive Xiaomi?" "Mother." Bai Xiao felt like his entire being was being blown into a mess in the wind. His eyes were full of astonishment, and he looked at Bai Xiaochen before looking at Bai Yan with a gaze full of shock. This little bun was actually his own nephew. Bai Xiaochen. Bai Yan slapped a palm onto the stone table. "Did you forget everything I've told you before? Mother, it is Xiaomi who had instigated me to go over. Even Bai Ji had been scratched by Xiaomi. It has nothing to do with baby. Why did he previously insist on bringing Xiaomi? Was it not for the sake of letting Xiaomi be the scapegoat? Anyway, he would never admit that this was his idea." 1. Chapter 39. Chapter 39, Bai Xiao's shock too. Meow. Xiaomi's voice carried an objection to it. If it had known that this was going to happen, it would not have so easily trusted its little master just now. "Tell me, what exactly happened? I want to hear the truth." Bai Yan frowned. Although she did not clearly express her forgiveness toward Bai Xiaochen and Xiaomi, her tone was obviously relaxed. "Who asked that group of B***stards to bully mother back then?" Bai Xiaochen buried his little head in Bai Yan's embrace with hazy eyes. "Mother, Chen'er did not intentionally disobey mother's words. It is them who were too much. I just wanted to help mother vent some anger." Hearing this, Bai Yan sighed. Her heart was a little gratified and a little warm. In this life, she was really lucky to have such an obedient and mature son. Furthermore, Bai Xiaochen began as he raised his head to look at Bai Yan aggrievedly, that Bai Ji even wanted to strangle Chen'er to death. "What?" Bai Yan immediately got angry, and with a single palm, she shattered the stone table. Bai Xiao, who was standing aside, had his eyes popped and mouth agape. He looked at the stone table, which had turned into dust, and then looked at Bai Yan, whose face was filled with anger, before swallowing his saliva with great difficulty. "Elder sister, when did she become so amazing?" He had a feeling that Bai Ji had gotten into big trouble this time. "Bai Ji had bullied me back then, and I can slowly settle the score with her. But now, she actually wants to strangle my son to death." Bai Yan was furious. "Xiao, make a trip to our maternal grandparents' house later. Ask maternal grandfather to invite the Bai family's people over to join in the banquet that will be happening a few days later." Her son was not so easily bullied. Bai Xiao nodded in a daze. He was obviously shocked by Bai Yan's palm just now. After she finished speaking, Bai Yan suppressed the anger in her heart and picked Bai Xiaochen up, out from her embrace as her gaze swept across his entire body while asking, "Did Bai Ji hurt you?" "Don't worry, mother," Bai Xiao Chen replied as he proudly patted his own chest. "Chen'er is still very amazing and even 10 Bai Jis would not be able to defeat Chen'er." Bai Yan knew that Bai Xiao Chen was speaking the truth, and furthermore, she could guess that the matter this time was also definitely instigated by Bai Xiao Chen. However, this did not mean that she would allow Bai Ji to bully her son. "Mother, can Chen'er visit the great-grandparents' home?" Bai Xiaoqin's eyes lit up as he asked. Bai Yan saw Bai Xiaoqin's starry-like gaze and had originally intended to agree. However, a devilishly handsome and domineering face suddenly appeared in her mind and she instantly calmed herself. "Now is still not the time yet. In the future, mother will bring you to meet great-grandfather. That man was very likely to be Chen'er's biological father. Therefore, at this kind of time, she could not let Chen'er show his face." "Okay." Bai Xiao Chen pursed his lips and lowered his little head in disappointment. That look was, not to mention, as aggrieved could get. Bai Yan, who saw this, also felt heartache. She almost agreed on the spot, but at the final moment, she kept it back and spoke words of comfort instead. "Chen'er, mother promises you that mother will bring you together with our relatives as soon as possible. Now, go and wash your little face clean first." "All right." Bai Xiao Chen revealed a smile at this and picked Xiaomi's tail up. "Xiaomi, take a look at yourself, so dirty. I will bring you for a bath first, or mother will disdain you otherwise." 2. Hearing the words "a bath," the tiger hairs on Xiaomi's entire body stood up as it immediately struggled out of Bai Xiaoqin's hand and climbed up a tree to hide away with a swish. It did not want to take a bath, absolutely not. "Xiaomi." Bai Xiaochen crossed his arms on his waist as he called out a little angrily. Xiaomi harumphed proudly, insisting on staying in the tree, not coming down. Bai Yan looked at Xiaomi, who was hiding in the tree, and a flicker appeared in her eyes as she said with a smile, "Chen'er, go and wash your face first. I still have other matters to instruct Xiaomi to do." Chapter 40. Chapter 40, Banquet I. In an ancient tree outside the courtyard, a skinny man hid his entire body within the branches of the tree. He felt Bai Yan swept a glance over and was shocked. A sense of guilt arose in his heart. Could it be that he had been noticed by this piece of trash? "Elder sis," Bai Xiao was just about to ask Bai Yan about matters pertaining Bai Xiao Chen, but he saw the corner of Bai Yan's lips curled up and her fingers interlocked with her gaze slightly narrowed. "Xiaomi, go and settle that fly who is following." Xiaomi meowed and speedily rushed toward the outside of the courtyard. Bai Xiao was stunned for a while, and just as he regained his senses, a heart-piercing scream could be heard coming from outside the courtyard. In the ancient big tree, a skinny figure fell, ruthless, crashing into the ground. His neck had a bite mark and blood was flowing. His opened eyes clearly indicating that he died with a grievance. "Ah, Tui Tui." The little white tiger walked over to him with elegant steps from outside the door, spitting on the ground, removing the blood within its mouth. It raised its paw to wipe off the blood traces at the corner of its lips while complaining, "This human's blood is really too difficult to swallow. I still prefer the roasted meat made by you, master." Bai Xiao, who was originally shocked by Xiaomi's cultivation, was further shocked as if he had been struck by lightning when he heard the little white tiger before him speaking the human tongue. He even almost lost consciousness out of the shock. "Elder sis," Bai Xiao wanted to cry without tears. "Why does this little cat know how to speak?" Bai Yan swept a glance at Xiaomi and replied, "Because it is a demon beast." Before Bai Xiao, Bai Yan did not really make Xiaomi continue to hide its identity. Anyway, he would know about it sooner or later. But, there are only a few demon beasts on the mainland. Furthermore, even the demon beast sect are unable to tame this demon beast. In reality, demon beasts were very noble in the mainland, as they could help humans during fights and were the best fighting partners to humans. It was a pity that demon beasts were not able to be tamed by just anyone. Even the demon beast sect was unable to tame a demon beast that could already speak the human language. Tell me, how could Bai Xiao not have been shocked? Don't you feel pleasantly surprised? Bai Yan shrugged and smiled widely. Pleasantly surprised. Bai Xiao felt very wronged. If it were not for my heart being strong enough, I would have been shocked to death by you. That's right, tell me first, what is going on with Chen? Is he really your son? Seeing Bai Xiao's eyes which were lit up, Bai Yan nodded. His name is Bai Xiao Chen. He is my son. However, I do not wish for other people to know of his existence for now. With this, Bai Xiao finally understood why Bai Xiao Chen targeted Bai Ji. It turns out that he was elder sister's child. Elder sis, I understand. I will protect him together with you. At this moment, Bai Xiao Chen had already cleaned up his little face. That little pinkish, jade-like face was even more adorable than it had been earlier when he was still dirty. Bai Xiao saw that the sky was slowly turning dark and a hint of helplessness appeared on his handsome face. The sky is turning dark. I should return. You had opposed Bai Ji for Chen's sake. She would definitely report this to Bai Zhenxiang. From what I see, it is still better if you don't go back to the Bai family. Bai Yan frowned as her tone contained a trace of worry. Bai Xiao shook his head. I am Bai Zhengxiang's only son. At most, he would give me a scolding. He wouldn't hurt me. Elder sis, I've said it before, I want to snatch back everything that belongs to us siblings and definitely not let the mother-daughter duo gain an advantage. Bai Yan opened her mouth and was about to continue advising him, but after she saw Bai Xiao's determined look, she took back those words. No matter what matters you face, come and seek me here. With me around, nobody can hurt you. All right. Bai Xiao smiled. He lowered his gaze and his fingers gently patted Bai Xiaoqin's little head. Chen, let's meet again another day. Uncle will come and visit you again. Part 1 of the series ends here. If you enjoyed it, please give us a like and subscribe so we can be motivated to make even better videos in the future.